Hello, everyone. I'm Mitchell Ryan Darcy, and welcome to the 5th year that I've been doing a Halloween marathon. 31 days, 31 horror movies. So basically, I watch movies that I've never seen before. So all these 31 films I've never seen before, only heard about, stuff like that. You maybe even seen a trailer for it, but I have not watched these films at all. So well, because why would I do this marathon of movies I've already seen, you know? It's September 1st right now, and I'm starting it almost a month early, because in October I will be going to Jamaica for like a week or so. Also, I got a couple other things that are happening, so it's like, actually, if I can edit this way in advance, I can have it uploaded by Halloween. So that's kind of the plan.
Carpet Day! No!
Arouses such emotion that the management has been forced to state positively no refund.
This year, I really wanted to start off with a really big bang of a horror film. So, I chose to start off with the infamous, legendary horror film known as Cannibal Holocaust. I think it came out around the 70s, don't quote me on that. Yeah, I have it on Blu-ray. It's the restored little box set thing they did for it. But I'm like, this would be a good way to start. I mean, I don't know how many. I'm just trying to think filmography wise. I think this might be my first cannibal related film. I mean, the closest other one I can think of is maybe Silence of the Lambs. I've seen that. And Manhunter. I mean, Hannibal Lecter does eat other people. So it's like, that was like a taste of the cannibalism. Now I'm just going totally into Cannibal Holocaust, which I don't even think I can even show you the poster on YouTube. I don't know. I'll find something to put there. That movie. Main reason I'm kind of excited for this movie is kind of funny because the soundtrack, the song, the theme, the main theme song to the movie is a beautiful score of a song sound. Like it's like, I can't remember how I came across that sound because I haven't seen the movie, but when I discovered what song it was, I'm like, oh, this comes from this movie. I'm like, I'm intrigued, and it's like, I'm gonna assume it's supposed to contrast the animal, you know, rough nature, violent. So it's like, I'm just picturing it's gonna be like really, really gross, lots of blood, lots of stuff, and then it's like this beautiful score will be playing in the background. So that's people will be screaming and all that, and it's that's what I'm imagining with this movie. I do know it is a found footage film, and I think I saw a slight bit of the trailer for the restoration of it, and that might have been where I heard the song to it. I'm like, to think that that soundtrack was made for this film, so it wasn't they found a beautiful song and decided to use it in the movie. It's literally, I don't know, the music guy saw the movie and was like, oh, okay, I'll write a beautiful song for this. I don't know what the train of mind was for it, but anyways, that's the main reason why I want to watch it. That, and I've heard it's actually quite legendary as well, in the sense that after they were finished filming it, the police had to actually seize the film, and there was a whole court case on it because the filmmakers had to prove that no one was actually murdered for the film. Like, that's how bad it is, apparently. I remember at Toronto Film School, I think a teacher talked about the film a slight bit, and they mentioned it's like, oh, they were showing a 40 millimeter print of it downtown or whatever, and it was like, he, they watched it and it was like, you know, they were eating like animals and stuff, like turtles and stuff. So it's like, yeah. And I ate about, I'm gonna say an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. So I don't know if that was the really bright idea. So let's see if I can last through this movie without pausing it. I don't think it'll be that. I mean, it's gonna be bad, but it's I don't know. Time to watch Cannibal Holocaust. I just watched. Well, I can't show you the cover, but YouTube, you know. Cannibal Holocaust. I definitely was queasy, certain parts of it. It is definitely the... I don't know if it's close to being the most violent. I don't know if it's the most violent film overall, because there was actually I was surprised the amount of like sections of the film where it's not like I thought. I was under the impression this movie is gonna be like start to finish, you know, total violence, gory, eating, death, destruction from beginning to end. But I was actually shocked to learn from watching it, there was actually a kind of decently well structured story to it. Because like you start off with, it's like a New York. It's in New York, and it's like they're talking news documentary type thing about how, you know, these people went to the jungles, deep in the jungles to film, and then it's like they disappeared. It's been 2 months. They're gonna, you know, search somebody to go find them. Professor guy, who, not really acting wise, but his voice, he's pretty cool to narrate things. So I'm not gonna lie. Like they chose a really good technical lead for the film. I think he's technically lead because he's the one that sort of. They go into the jungle and then they find the footage of them when they went to shoot deep into the Green Inferno is the name of the middle of the jungle of the Amazon. I think that's where they were, yeah, if I remember correctly. But I'm just shocked, structure and story wise, it actually was done pretty tastefully. Or not well, I don't know if that's the right word to be using with this movie, but like it was structurally done well enough to be an actual film to watch and all that. Like, you know, I from the whole, oh, it's gonna be so controversial, oh, it was deaf and all that, and you know, no one under a certain age should see this, and I'm like, yeah, I can definitely see that with the scenes that where it does go violent. It's like, yeah, this is hard R. Hard, you know. But anyways, but I did really like how it's sort of them reviewing the footage after they get back, and then it's like, you know, they want to show the footage or make money off the footage with the documentary and all that. But then it's like, you know, the professor guy who went for the, you know, the rescue party or recover the footage party, I guess you would call it, and it's like, it's so, I just like that whole aspect, and they actually went for a meaning of, you know, how it's like, who are the true savages of the world, and it's like, it's a little bit blunt, but at the same time, it's like, you know, there's actually kind of a meaning to Cannibal Holocaust. The music is pretty good, but the main theme stands out way too much compared to the rest of the music. Any of the, you know, shocking scenes or someone's getting beat to death and all that. It's like it works with the film, but the main theme song is just such a nice song. It's too nice. I will say the most queasiest, the part I felt really the worst at was the turtle scene. And I remember my teacher of mine talked about it, and I was like, but actually seeing the scene, I'm like, yeah. It kind of hit a little too close to home because I used to have a pet turtle. I had a couple pet turtles, actually, 15 years ago or so. And, like, the littlest one day we found him, he didn't have a head. It looked like, we don't know exactly what happened, but we think one of the other larger turtles accidentally bit his head off or something like that. And the turtle scene in this movie really made me sad, because that's the thing going into this film, is I knew any of the animal death scenes, particularly, or eating, it's like that's real. That's actually they took a live animal and killed it. And just talking about it and then remembering the film, I'm actually starting to get a little queasy again. But it's like, they start off, like, they get the turtle onto land or whatever, and I think they drowned it beforehand, but I'm not sure, because, they start off by chopping the head, and it's like, and I'm like, it's just, the worst part is through the whole thing, you can see the turtle is still twitching, and there's parts of it that, like, I'm shocked, because I'm like, I know it's the nervous system, but it's like, the head is still a little bit, like, closing, opening his mouth, even though his head has been detached for, I assume, a minute or so. This is definitely a strong start to this horror marathon. Overall, it was, I mean, it's not the kind of film that you go into to enjoy it. I mean, I felt it exists as a film. I've seen it. I can say I've seen it. A lot of the techniques, I kind of liked how they went around with it. Like, for example, most of the scenes with animals, or not animals, but like danger. Like, for example, when they were crossing the river and you see the crocodiles going, or crocodile or alligator, I forget which one, going into the river, and then and they're trying to paddle across the river or whatever, and they're in the water. It's like, you can tell from the high quality Blu-ray that it's like every time the camera goes off a bit, it cuts. It's a totally different shot of the animals, but it's done back and forth so well that you actually think they're in the same area, so there's like a really illusion of danger. Like, if I saw this movie when this came out, whatever, 70s, early 80s, I forget, I am not surprised that if police saw this movie or whatever, and they confiscated the film immediately and, arrested the crew, like, people who made this film, because it's like most of the stuff, I'm like this does, like, it's done in such a way it felt real enough. Like, there was a lot of it I was questioning. I'm like, it looks like it's shot for real, but then it's kind of not. But when you compare it with the animals stuff that's actually real, and it's real, and use that as like a tipping point, so it's like, but like a lot of it, like makeup and just the way it was shot and all that, it's very deceiving at some parts and all that, like the girl, the spike and all that, and like the aftermath of certain things. It's like it made me dig question. I'm like knowing that only the animals were the things that were harmed and brutally killed in this movie. It's like, I can't believe that that's just makeup and prosthetics and stuff like that. Like, some of it you can tell, like, for example, when the body of the humans are in pieces, you can tell, okay, that's a little bit prosthetic there, and they're hitting something as it's coming apart. It's like, you can tell that was put together a bit, but it's deceiving a bit. Not exactly a film that I would say is like, like, it's a good horror film in the sense that, you know, it made me, like, I still have a bit of a queasy feeling all over of this film. And so, I guess it did its job. I mean, as a very violent, very gory film, it definitely accomplished that. It had a lot of shock value. This is definitely, like, this is probably the worst of all the films I've ever seen in the terms of violence and gore and sex and all that. So it's like, this is now the new high bar of every movie I've ever seen. This is the one to point to so far for, you know, violence and all that. So I don't know what other films that I haven't seen that will top this in the future, but I'm not exactly excited for it, but I'm interested to see what could top this, you know. Next up, I'm a little bit worried, but not too much, I decided to pair this movie with the Green Inferno, which is the Eli Roth film that came out recently. I think within the last 8 years, I think this movie came out. I think it was closer to 5 years ago, but I could be mistaken. I can't remember exactly, but I remember hearing about this film and that it played at TIFF and all that. Eli Roth it's the only Eli Roth film I am gonna see now, because I haven't seen it and I'm about to watch it. So I'm like, okay, so it's heavily inspired by Cannibal, Holocaust, and these type of movies. So it's like, especially the fact that the Green Inferno was the name of the film in Cannibal, Holocaust that they were making. Or, yeah, I think that's, yeah, they were calling it the Green Inferno tape or whatever. But, like, it's going to be modernly done. So it's like, I assume it's going to look worse or better. I don't know. So yeah, that's my next one. It's going to be the first Eli Roth movie I've seen. The only thing I've really seen that I haven't seen anything directed by him, but I have seen him he was in Inglourious Basterds. He was great in that movie. Absolutely great. Inglourious Basterds was a good movie overall. Anyways, technically going to be my first film I've seen by him. I think he did the Hostel series as well and stuff like that, and I've heard about that film. I haven't seen it, but yeah. So time to watch the Green Inferno. I just watched the Green Inferno, and it definitely feels very subpar overall, especially compared to just watching Cannibal Holocaust. So I was trying to figure out how, like, the movie was going to be tone-wise, and it's in between, you know, playing it for laughs, but mostly serious, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, it's just, overall, the movie is just, I don't know, Eli Roth, his strongest aspects is just the way he does sort of the gory scenes and all that, and it just seems, that definitely seems like it's done the best of this movie. The whole setup is very interesting way of going around a setup for this movie, especially with them going in a plane to, you know, protest the Amazon forest being, you know, deforestation and all that, which actually kind of hits kind of a little bit nowadays because of the, you know, Amazon fire and all that. Having them, it's like they're trying to save the forest and save the tribes and all that, and it's like, you know, on their plane back, because they're still wearing the costumes of the construction workers and all that, they get mistaken by the tribe when, you know, their plane crashes and they think it's them, and, you know, they do the tribe things that we saw in Cannibal Holocaust and all that. They eat people and all that, and one by one most of them die. And I mean, the thing I liked about this is another one of those movies where it's like it was okay for the most part, but what I felt it really shined on was kind of, especially the sort of the last shot before the end credits and all that. Like, there's a bit of a, like, the scene just before, like, the scenes at the end of the movie where it's after the major event and someone gets saved. I'm not saying who or whatever, spoilers or whatever, but I just wanted to say it's just sort of what the direction the movie went. And I love that psych out dream scene because it felt like it's like, oh, it's going to be a predictable twist, but then it's done like it's going to be a predictable twist, but then the psych out that ends the nightmare was really unexpected and took me by surprise, along with, there was a couple other one or two little things throughout the film where it was like a bit of a surprise, and then it's like, I think Ellie Roth had fun with this movie making it, but I don't know. It's just a lot of little things, and just like the part where the tribe's all on the drugs that was burned from the body, like I'm like, yeah, I could see why he wrote that in. I mean, I haven't seen that in a movie before, so it's like kind of be funny, and they play like things that are funny he plays around with, but I mean, we're talking about a movie where most of the people die getting eaten and stuff like that, so it's like, it shouldn't be an enjoyable movie. But in the end credits for this movie, they showed a list of a history of Italian cannibal movies, and that was one of them. But I think that was like Cannibal Holocaust was like the fourth one on the list, so there was actually a couple that were earlier, and it actually listed Cannibal Holocaust as 1980, so it's right on between 70 and 80s. It's just at the transition time. But anyways, I think it was the 1980s. My short-term memory is not that great. But anyways, the Green Inferno. Okay, it comes with the soundtrack, which is cool. Soundtrack wasn't anywhere near as amazing as Cannibal Holocaust, but had okay moments, I guess, throughout. But Green Inferno was, I don't know. I felt like, kind of reminded me of Sam Raimi's Drag Me to Hell, in the sense of, I don't know why I want to compare those two movies, but like, the thing is, with Drag Me to Hell, it was a little more fun of a movie to go through, where this was a little more okay, pretty mediocre otherwise. Literally, the gory scenes are the scenes that stand out the most. The scenes where it's, like, for example, CGI, heavily plane crash specifically. Not the inside. The inside was shot practically, and that was cool. But anything outside CGI, it's like, it's very cheap. And same with the ants and all that. And it's like, I guess, I mean, it's better than anything I've ever made. So that's something, film wise. So. Green Inferno. If you like cannibal movies, I guess this one's a suggestion, or this one you've already seen. Like, I'm gonna eat some supper now. As long as I don't think back to the first movie. Actually, it's funny. Green Inferno. I didn't really feel sick at all throughout the entire movie. There was not a part where I was like, oh, I'm feeling queasy. Which it's just the way it's done. It's more newer. For example, footage, everything looks like a movie that's shot today. There's hardly any, next to no film grain or anything that, says it's film. And it just, to me, it's like, it's more easier to watch this than to say Cannibal Holocaust, where it's like grainy, older film, older audio, and it's like, it has more impact, on top of the stuff they actually did in that movie. But like, comparing scenes that are like similar, anything bloody or, arms or heads getting ripped off, it looks better in the movie that came out 30 or 40 years ago than it does in the movie that came out like 5 years ago. So, budget might be the issue, because, that's what it is today. Today, it's like more expensive. Back then, CGI was more expensive and practical effects were cheap. Nowadays, it's the opposite. CGI is cheap, and practical effects are more expensive nowadays. So it's like, which is unfortunate because practical effects are the best, you know? Anyways, moving on. Okay, so we got off to a delicious start. Pun intended. Anyways, this is the next film that I'm watching is the Cloverfield Paradox, which is the third of the anthology Cloverfield series. The first Cloverfield movie I loved. 10 Cloverfield Lane is amazing film just on its own. Not including the fact that it's related anthology-wise to the name Cloverfield. This one I heard was really, really bad. Yeah, online, wherever, it's just everyone mentions it, it's like, this is bad, this is horrible. And I'm like, how bad could it be? I mean, I'm really excited to see it just for the cast alone. I mean, Chris O'Dowd, the guy from Inglourious Bastards. I'm trying to remember his name, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. But it's like, I heard it was really bad, but what made this really interesting is during the Super Bowl of, I don't know if it was last year, this year, or the year before, it's been so long, Netflix just out of nowhere dropped the trailer for this movie and just said, hey, it's on Netflix now. You can watch the movie right now. Like, literally, as soon as the ad is over, you can watch the movie. So, that was a really great thing, because I was like, well, I don't really want to watch football, so I see the commercial and it's like, yeah, gotta see it now, you know. Judging from what I've heard and what I see of the poster and all that, it's in like space or whatever. The thing about the Cloverfield anthology things is you're not sure if things are really that connected, or maybe it's in the same universe, or maybe it's all, each Cloverfield is like an alternate universe type deal. Like, we don't know. And maybe this movie will explain some of it, or not. I kind of hope not. I kind of hope it's one-off story type thing. But J.J. Abrams did produce this along with 10 Cloverfield Lane. And yeah, he produced the first one as well. Yeah, or wrote it. I forget. But I know he didn't direct any of them, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because he directed Super 8. Yeah, that's right. Anyways, I'm going in with low expectations just because I heard just how bad it all is overall. But I'm like, how bad could it be? I mean, Overlord, which was produced by J.J. Abrams, was amazing. That was pretty fun, and horror. It had definitely some very good elements of horror in that, moments or whatnot. So actually, it would be really funny if I watched this movie and it turns out it's actually not horror at all. Maybe it's a space drama where like nothing bad happens or anything, or that would be boring. No wonder. I don't know. Time to watch the Cloverfield Paradox. I just watched the Cloverfield Paradox, and I actually enjoyed this movie. And I actually found it's actually decently, overall, it was good. It had me on the edge of my seat from opening titles, credits. Well, it wasn't really opening. The beginning credits, when they do start to happen, it kind of reminded me of 10 Cloverfield Lane, but not as impactful, just that montage. The opening two scenes were a little bit slow getting into, but from when the main title credits start to the very end, there was a lot of mystery, a lot of things they sort of just do for what appears to be no reason. It's like they took, because the story is basically around is like alternate dimensions and all that. So it's like using the space shuttle, they're trying to save. It's such an interesting plot because they're trying to save the world by, creating this unlimited energy, because the world is, resources are running out, everything's going to shit and all that. There's, we're on the verge of countries are on the verge of war and all that because fighting over resources, what's left, and then as humans do when there's not enough stuff, so there have the Cloverfield station, which has the experiment that is very dangerous. That's why they're doing it in space, far away from the Earth, and good thing they didn't do it on Earth. Basically, it's successful, but then something happens, and all of a sudden the space shuttle is in the middle of nowhere space, and they don't know where they are. There's things missing, things are not correct or as what they seem, and I don't want to spoil this movie. That's the basic setup right there. But there's so much about this movie that I just thought was done really well. Like, it's low budget, but it's done so well. They take full advantage of the environments and all, like the sets and all that and everything. It just the way they shot it. It had they definitely, there was the Dutch angle with the J.J. Abrams, slight lens flare, the music. Even the music kind of reminded me of J.J. Abrams' filmography, producing and directing. Like the music was top notch. I actually noticed how good the music was in this, even though it wasn't as memorable. But as the movie was going along, I was like, this is actually a nice score to listen to. Even the terror moments or the moments where it's shocking, surprising, it worked with the film. And I'm not gonna say if it's connected, Cloverfield wise, but with the title is connected, so it's like I'm not sure exactly. Hopefully they're going somewhere with this Cloverfield anthology thing. Hopefully, I just don't see. I'm trying to think because the acting was really good, cast did an amazing job, and I recognized the captain guy. He was in Interstellar. He was the teacher, and I think he's been in a couple other things as well. I forget his name, but it's like the cast was amazing. They did an amazing good job with it. Though there is a couple of moments where it's like I felt like the actors did really good with what they were given, and the script itself wasn't restrictive or anything. It's just there's maybe a little part near the end for a little more tense stuff I felt was not executed as well, but I didn't really complain because I was still enthralled with the film. Everything looked like even the video, like anytime it cut, like I love the design of the spaceship. I love the whenever you see the outside of the ship, it looks you can tell it's obviously CG. And then it's like there were some transitions in this where it's like there's a part where they have to sort of cross to another section of the ship, but it's a little bit outside, and the shot going back and then seeing the outside because you see the actors and then it backs up and then you see the ship. Flawless transition of CGI from live action to CGI. It's really done well. Though the overall what the story was trying to do, I kind of figured this is what they were going to try and do with it. I'm not saying what it is, because if you can tell I like the movie when it's like I'm trying to describe it without spoiling it, because I want other people to share in it. But a lot of people, I'm surprised. It's like it has a low rating from what I remember, and it didn't do that well. It's critically people thought it was a bad movie, and I'm like, I'm watching it and I'm like, it's a little bit bad, but it's not. I've seen hundreds of films that are probably worse than this one. Okay, maybe not hundreds, but I've seen a lot of. I've seen films that are much worse than this, and I've verbally enjoyed the Cloverfield Paradox. Okay, it's nowhere near as good as 10 Cloverfield Lane, which I still think is absolutely, almost basically a masterpiece on its own. And it didn't have the big spectacle of the first Cloverfield movie, which is marketing wise and all that. That's something I'm never gonna forget. Going to the theaters to see that. I remember when I was seeing a movie for a trailer. I don't even know what movie it was, but like the opening trailer, they didn't show the name of Cloverfield. Like, you've never seen a trailer, like I never saw a trailer where it's like there's no name of the film. It doesn't give the name of the film. What the did I just watch? It just gave like a date and stuff. If I remember the original Cloverfield trailer, so it's just just me thinking back to the first Cloverfield movie, that brings back a lot of memories and nostalgia. But this one's definitely the weaker of all of them. But a nice idea overall, and I'm still not entirely sure what this means in the grand scheme of things. If you like the first two Cloverfield movies, then you definitely will need to check this out just to formulate your own opinion. I don't know if it's still on Netflix or digital streaming for cheap, or maybe someone finds this in a garage sale for, cheap, I definitely recommend a one-time watch and just see what you like. If you liked the first two movies. If you didn't like Cloverfield and like 10 Cloverfield Lane, or if you dislike 10 Cloverfield Lane and like Cloverfield, I don't know what you're going to think about this film, but I liked it, and that's kind of all that matters. Anyways, next up, I'm going to be watching The Exorcist Part 2, The Heretic, which is a movie sequel that I heard is very, very bad in the sense of just what they did and what they... Like, I heard the third one is pretty good, and if you can guess, I'm going to be watching the third one right after watching the second one. So, I don't know what to expect with The Exorcist 2. I know the first one's considered like the Godfather of horror, so The Heretic, or Exorcist 2, I heard it's basically Godfather 3, so which I heard is bad, but I haven't seen Godfather 3 yet. I've seen the first two Godfathers. I haven't seen the third one yet, but I heard that one's definitely nowhere near as good as the first two. So it's like The Heretic 2 apparently is bad, and I'm gonna picture it's like Nightmare on Elm Street. The first one was really good, amazing, like almost iconic, basically, to kicking off that franchise. And the second movie, I forgot the name of it. Was it Freddy's Revenge or something like that? The second one is just so bad, and I don't like to acknowledge that movie exists in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. So it's like, I'm gonna assume it's gonna be like that. It's from the Exorcist franchise. I can see the second one being, I can see it being bad, but how bad can it be? That's the question going into it. So, time to watch Exorcist 2, The Heretic. I just watched The Exorcist 2, The Heretic. Yeah, well, that was interesting to say the least. I can definitely see why this could be the worst of the Exorcist movies, judging just from the first two. The first one was really good, I thought, but the second one, ooh, very interesting way of where they were going with the science hypnosis type thing, and it kind of reminded me, it's like my first thought when they started, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be like almost like Inception, going into the sort of mind but memory sort of type thing. It was very, very cool and very experimental the way they did those scenes where it, like, you know, they overlayered footage and all that, and it a little bit of a cool effect. But the movie itself is quite lame, quite boring. Didn't really go anywhere. I was like, by the end of it, I'm like, what was the point of that? Had probably my favorite death scene of that I've seen in a long time is the scene where they're climbing up to the temple, and it's like the rocks are very tight, and that's the only way you can get up there is using, you know, your back and grip to go up, and one guy like loses his grip and then he falls, and it's one of the most, like, on high definition Blu-ray, it's just you see the little bit of string, and then he falls one way, and then all of a sudden he's like falling another way, and then it's like, you know, it's very cheesy, and it just, it was so funny watching him fall down. And then it's like, he was falling so slowly too, so it's like, it didn't even, like, it wasn't until a certain point where you can tell it turns into a stuffed body. Then you can tell it all of a sudden picks up speed at the end, and then is just thrown down normally. So it just, I thought it was a really, that was the part of the movie I enjoyed the most, was some guy falling from rocks. I mean, that's kind of sad if you think about it. And also the little moth cinematography, that's unique. I don't think I've ever seen a movie handle moth cinematography like that, you know? Or not moth, grasshopper, or locust, whatever. Potato. Anyways, just to give you a heads up, the version of the film I chose because I got the Scream Factory edition. It has the 117-minute original version and the 102-minute cut version, or what's it called? They have the original cut, and then they have the original home video cut. Since the original home video cut is like 15 minutes shorter, I decided to go with the longer original cut. So I wonder how much better the movie is with the home video cut of the film. Probably got rid of a lot of extra stuff that they didn't actually really need. So maybe it's a better film, but I'm not going to watch it. And next up is The Exorcist III, and I'm not going to watch it today. I'm a little tired out from movies and getting a certain big video up on my YouTube channel. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen it. Anyways, time to watch Exorcist Part 3. Which I heard is much better than the second one, but that's all I really heard. I heard it's basically what the second movie should have been. So I'm excited just to see something that isn't the second movie. I mean, the second one was still interesting, and it did things I wasn't expecting, so I guess it was good. No, it's not. It's quite. It's a bit of a slog to get through. So the third one, from what I've seen of the cover of the release, it's like there's George C. Scott and Brad Dourif, who he was in Lord of the Rings, and he's the voice of Chucky, if I remember correctly. That alone makes me kind of excited to watch this. Time to watch The Exorcist III. I just watched The Exorcist III. And I watched the original theatrical version of it. Because Shout Factory also offers the try to be more truer to what the original version was supposed to be cut. I don't know what exactly to call it, but I really specifically chose the theatrical version because I was looking online, and it's like, you know, a lot of the footage is like almost incomplete and stuff, and a lot of it was taken from the original VHS dailies of the film and all that. So, and editing it back into the film, I felt like it would be good if I just watched the theatrical version. So, and I will say the theatrical version, Exorcist III, I really love this movie. It was really well done. And I just wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. Like, it didn't need to be this good, and I felt it was really good. It unique, stand out. I mean, George C. Scott and Brad Dourif, just specifically Brad Dourif in the small time that he was on screen, he just absolutely he almost stole the movie. On top of the just the structure of it and all that, like this might be my most favorite like horror film sequel. Like, I actually enjoyed this one a lot more than the original Exorcist, and the original Exorcist is extremely well done. But this one, it's just I don't know, there's something about it, either like the dialogue and all that, and just I loved how brief the editing was. Like, it felt like it stayed the minimum amount of time with each scene and whatever. Like, for example, I'm trying to think of an example, but like, they would be they're going to go see It's a Wonderful Life in theaters. A little brief scene of them, George C. Scott arriving, and he's apologizing he's late, and then, they get the father gets the popcorn, and then it's like all of a sudden cut, and we're from a poster. It's all of a sudden, it's like, it's so brief. It's like the dialogue just has enough space in between to finish between the sentence finishing and when it cuts to another scene or another shot, and then transitions to another scene. Like, the editing in this movie felt brief, that it was the very minimum. It didn't hang around too long, except for, there was maybe one or two scenes later on in the film where I felt like it was purposely done a little bit longer. But it was the movie moved at such a pace that it just, there was enough about it to hang on. I loved how it was like, I loved how it didn't really mention the second movie. That's good in my book. Yeah, I can definitely see why this is more of a definitive Exorcist sequel than the second one. I love the direction the Exorcist III went with it being related to the first one, but I mean, I have a soft spot for, like, detective, trying to figure out if there's a killer on the loose, who it is, and all that. Like, it's just really entertaining. But, like, on top of getting that, but you also got Exorcist forces in just overall throughout, and it's just the right amount. A lot of things is like things that wouldn't be taken as seriously. It's just the way it's shot. Like, I love how there's so many shots where it's sort of just a wide shot, and all that, and like somebody got murdered in such a way that it's like it's almost unbelievable in how they died or what happened to their body after the murderer killed them, and they're explaining in one scene, and it's just a wide shot, and it just of just the room, of them, and everything, just as they're explaining the whole thing to another character who just just came onto the scene. I don't want to spoil it because I had a really good time with this movie, I felt, overall. And it's weird because it doesn't, there was so much about the movie where it's like not real, but like there was so much little odd things just in either the acting or the script or the way it was shot. I loved how they played around with either the statues or whatever. You know, they made things either come alive or seem to be moved or changed throughout, and it's like little things like that. It's like I appreciate the effort in this film, practicality and all that. There's one scene with a ceiling that I'm still trying to figure out how exactly they shot that, because on Blu-ray, the high definition transfer of the film, I don't see how. I have an idea of how they did it, but I don't see the editing. I don't see what they did to stitch the scenes together. I assume they shot it separately or whatever and put it together, but it's seamless. And meanwhile, there's a couple other scenes where it's like there's one shot in a house specifically where you see the wire of someone getting pulled back, and the wire is clear as day, and I'm like, I mean, back then I probably would have not have noticed it, but on high definition Blu-ray, a thing like that is really cool that they actually didn't, try to edit out that string. It's actually kind of neat having it there for the shot. So I kind of like that. It's kind of those little odd movie type mistakes or not really mistakes, but like it makes you, they did it practically. You see that they did it practically, and I love the effort. But anyways, I enjoyed that movie so much that I'm actually now, right after finishing it, I'm gonna actually go watch the extended cut that Shout Scream Factory has for Exorcist III, and because I wanted to see kind of more of the film. I want to see if any of the really brisk editing pace that they had throughout the film. I wonder if there's like scenes that were in between those that were cut or something like that, because I still really enjoyed the film as is on the theatrical cut. That I'm very interested in seeing the extended cut. So time to watch The Exorcist III. I don't know what version cut they call it, but slightly more cut, or is it slightly less? I don't know. Surprisingly, on the disc, it doesn't actually say the runtime for the other cut. So, time to watch whatever version of that is. I just finished watching the director's cut. Is apparently what they're calling it. I will say there's a couple little things that are added. Biggest change is probably the specific ending and what they took out throughout the film. So I don't know the story behind the two cuts, and it's very interesting watching both versions of films back to back. But I felt like there was so much. I felt like they could just had it separate. I don't know. I'm a little bit mixed, because it's like I did really like the theatrical version. I like what it did, where it went, and a couple other well done scenes and stuff like that. And it's like this one kept most of it the same. It's just I felt like the added stuff, like especially a couple major parts with Brad Dourif's character, it just felt like it was more of here's an alternate take of him doing this monologue or scene, and most of the added stuff, like, because the quality is so bad. I'm so glad I did not choose the director's cut to watch for the first time. I made the right decision by watching the theatrical cut for the first time, because it's just there was like one or two little things that was cleared up for me a little bit better with a couple shots that were shown added in and stuff. But what surprised me is what they took out, but I can't, because I kind of want to spoil it, but at the same time, I'm like, when else on my YouTube channel am I ever going to talk about The Exorcist III again? Because it's taken me forever to do any other videos, so it's like, I don't think I'll ever probably talk about Exorcist III again on this channel, except for maybe for top favorite list or something like that, but like, I don't know if it justifies being a totally different thing. Like, once again, this is the problem when you don't know the story, but total story behind the versions. It felt like if the director's cut was supposed to be what the original film was, and the studio was stepped in and was like, no, you're gonna need to reshoot some things, you need to add something, you know, and turn it into something else, because the director's cut version is just called Legion, and it's not called Exorcist III, where the theatrical version is called Exorcist III, and there's a lot of things Exorcist-wise, especially near the end in Exorcist III, but the cut here, it almost implies it, but it's like, there's so much that I sort of praise it for, because it's like, wow, that would have been a, like, the ending, I'm like, if I sat through this movie, seeing what I saw, and then I see that ending and how they ended it for the director's cut, I would have been like, I would have felt a little cheesed off. I felt like, you know, I got a little ripped off there with that ending. So, I'm pretty sure the studio saw that and was like, nah, we're gonna reshoot, we're gonna do this, we're gonna add in this whole character and stuff like that, which is in the theatrical version, and it makes sense. For once, if the theatrical cut is the way it is because the studio interfered, then I'm all for it, because this is one of the few times I've ever seen studio interference could be good, if that is the backstory. Don't quote me, because I haven't actually read up on it or anything. I'm literally going off of what I've seen and what the Scream Shout Factory menu is like and all that, so it's like, I don't know. But it's a very gutsy way of ending it, if that director's cut was meant to be the original version. So, next up is My Name is Bruce. Main reason I got it on Blu-ray is because I found it some used section for like under $10, and I was like, up to this point, I have saw the Evil Dead franchise, so, and I was like, what is this? I've never even heard of this film. And not only is it starring Bruce Campbell, but he's also directing the film. And from what I read on the back, it's Bruce Campbell playing a Bruce Campbell, and it's almost like he's playing himself, and it's sort of like, I guess, spun off of the idea of like him being an actor, being known for Evil Dead franchise, but what happens if hypothetically the movies that he's known for or whatever comes to life or something like that? That's what I'm getting just from what I've seen of the Blu-ray case and that. Never seen it, but I'm super excited to watch it just because it's Bruce Campbell. I just watched My Name is Bruce and quite enjoyed it. Definitely a change of pace from, you know, Cannibal, Holocaust, and The Exorcist and all that, you know. A little more on the light side of horror. Pretty meta with Bruce Campbell acting as basically himself. Or stereotypically himself, and in the sort of a style of his movies and all that. I liked it. I enjoyed it. Quite funny. I enjoyed it. I mean, that's all I can really say about the movie. I mean, it's just the references and all that, and all the Bruce Campbell is always a joy to see. It definitely is definitely cheesy, but it's pretty good cheese. not the best cheese, but it's pretty good. I and that song that they play throughout, it's quite catchy. Next up is Lifeforce, I believe. Movie, once again, never really heard of, but, you know, Shout Screen Factory released it, and I was like, okay, well, it's from, I believe it's the same director who did Texas Chainsaw Massacre, correct? Was it Tobe Hooper? But I think it's like vampires and something about sucking out life forces. That's why it's called Life Force. I don't know. I'm basically going into it blind, so time to watch, I guess. I just watched Life Force. I chose to do the director's cut, or it's the director's cut. Yeah, I chose to do the director's cut. It seems to be the longer cut of the film, from what I can see. And from the way it's set up, it does seem like the director's cut is the better version of the film, just going off of how the audio commentaries are only available on the director's cut, so that seems like the more definitive version. So that's the version I went with. And, wow. Oh yeah, I did a bit of Salem's Lot. I'm tired, okay? It's a little late at night. Yeah, so Poltergeist, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then after Poltergeist he did this movie, Lifeforce. But it's before he did Texas Chainsaw Massacre too. And it's weird because it's like, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series is very different from Poltergeist and Lifeforce. Like, just in the sense of the way the movies were done, and how it was done. It's just, I find that so interesting because, like, Poltergeist, when I first saw it, which I think I watched it on my first marathon that I had, horror marathon, it was a surprise to me just how well it was shot, Poltergeist, and just how it looked, how it flowed, and all that. And this movie definitely, it definitely had some great moments of its own. Reminded me a bit of Poltergeist. In the beginning, it was a little weird getting into the film because I'm like, you know, you see the ships, and the ships don't look that great design-wise. It looked really kind of plain, just looked like a normal space shuttle, but like with a fan out, or not, wings, curtains, whatever, across. So it was a little, getting into it, it's like, oh, this is going to be one of those cheesy type of space movies. But I was actually surprised just how serious overall it is, and just well done, well acted. Pretty fun movie overall. Surprised where it went. Couple pretty good twists and all that. I straight through enjoyed this film. Director's cut. It makes me wonder what is cut out for the theatrical cut. Probably a little couple, maybe extra shots or scenes that lingered a little too long. Yeah, really cool. I didn't expect to see Patrick Stewart in this film. That was a surprise. The music, I felt I don't know if it's happy or upbeat, but it just felt, there's another soundtrack or movie or whatever that kind of reminded me of the soundtrack, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. But it's like, like, but I was gonna say, music wise, I was actually, it seemed kind of a little more upbeat. Like they're playing the it almost sounds like it's gonna jump into like a superhero type theme or something, you know. That's what it reminded me. It reminded me of the X-Men theme song. felt like that. Music, the main theme. But anyways, yeah, I thought Lifeforce was actually pretty damn good. I definitely loved the whole use of models with London getting destroyed and all that. Like, it's really cool just how well they did those type of scenes and all that. It definitely felt big scaled, even though it's probably just studios sets and stuff. I definitely also really like the psychiatrist scene in the green. It's like almost a circle of a room. Like, I really like the set design specifically, and I don't know what's designed studio, and I don't know what's actually, filmed on location. But I just love the overall layout and how the camera moves around the areas and all that. Like, whether it's the inside of the space shuttle or the inside the mental hospital, like, it just very coolly shot. I'm gonna be watching Carnival of Souls. Carnival of Souls? Or is it Carnivals of Soul? It's Carnivals of Soul. I'm pretty sure it's Carnival of Souls. It's an older, was it 1962? Somewhere around there. Older black and white film that I think is horror. I'm pretty sure it has, at very least, that probably has elements of horror. And it's a main reason why I even heard about this film, and that is because of Criterion Collection, and I saw it made some, top lists for some people and all that, and some people were actually recommended, and it seems like it is one of those films where it's visually really creepy, eerie type thing, and I was just really intrigued to actually see the movie. So, time to watch Carnival of Souls. If I can get it right. I just watched Carnival of Souls, and it has atmosphere. Absolutely. Whether it is the very interesting, intriguing plot, or the very cool setting, like that whole fairground abandoned place that's on an almost dried up lake. That's a good choice setting and stuff for, the creepy atmosphere and all that. Though it's a little weird that the inciting incident at the beginning of the film is not technically related to the area where it happens, but I can very easily overlook that little detail because this is just pretty cool movie in the sense that it almost felt like it's a very long extended Twilight Zone classic episode, that's what this movie overall felt like. Very kind of neat low budget tricks, especially for something that came out in the 60s. It's just a pretty interesting film overall. Like, even the way they shot it and all that, and like some of it felt like it definitely jumped a bit in certain, like, something is happening and then all of a sudden it would cut. It feels like it missed a shot in between, sort of thing. Like in the beginning when the cars are racing and they are heading towards the bridge, and then all of a sudden it cuts and they're already, like sort of halfway through the bridge going. So it's like, or already on the bridge perfectly, and it's like, it felt like it definitely jumped, but not as much. I don't know. I don't know if it was just me that, saw little things like that, or I don't know. Yeah, I liked it, especially the score with the organ throughout it. Like, it's very creepy, very eerie. Definitely pretty tame movie by today's standards, but I'm sure back then it was, if you were on late at night watching it, it's on TV or whatever, like, yeah, I could, it definitely be, an experience of a movie. But cool. I liked it. Anyways, next up, it's time to watch a more modern movie. It Follows. A movie that I remember when it came out, it was like, it had like, I remember it was sort of making a big splash in the horror genre. Everyone was like, oh, this is such a, I don't know. I just heard it was a very standout horror film when it came out, and it came out, what, like 5 years ago or something like that. I don't know. I know it was recent, but I don't know how recent. But I found the movie for $5, Blu-ray plus DVD, and I'm like, hey, I'll take, for $5, I'll take a stab at this movie. Yeah. So I heard it's a little weird. Somewhat gross, somewhat crazy. I don't know. I'm just gonna have to watch it to find out. Time to watch It Follows. I just watched It Follows. As you can see, I got it for $5. There's the proof. I hate it when they put the stickers on anything that is slipcover or the Blu-ray case, because it usually always leaves a sticky mark, and then it gets dirt and stuff gets stuck to it or whatever. But anyways, It Follows is I can now see why this movie was such a big deal when it came out. It's almost like let's say John Carpenter wasn't born back then and did Halloween or any of those movies or whatever, and he's born much later. This is the kind of movie like a young John Carpenter in modern days would actually come up with as a movie. It has one of those interesting, scary things type plots with the low budget aspect of almost like the Halloween type movie. Like if you remember, like the very first Halloween movie, it's just basically guy escapes from a mental institute with a scary standout mask that chases after people. So it's like, in this case, it's like Michael Myers is a little bit of an unstoppable force, and then that's why he's sort of and the icon that he is, and it's like it Follows plays on that sort of similar thing where you got an unstoppable force which just slowly moves towards you to kill you. But then they added the mythology of let's say hypothetically, the only reason it follows you is if you have sex with someone who is currently being followed by it, whatever it is. Not to get confused with Stephen King's The It. Some very cool shots in this, long takes, very, very suspenseful, very unnerving film overall. Little weird decisions and things later on in this film, but overall I just felt it. The score is the thing that made me really remind me. I'm like, okay, this like if the score wasn't so John Carpenter, if the score wasn't so John Carpenter-ish, I mean, it's literally like, it's so hard to watch this, and it's like just the use of it. It's dramatic. It's always there. Sometimes not, and then it comes back in at certain times, and it has that feel of like the original Halloween movie, but with a supernatural, modern, like crazy sort of thing. It's like it takes the place, like it doesn't take the place, but it copies strangers, other people, friends you know, family, or whatever. It could be anything, but it just follows you, and it's unstoppable, and it's such a simple, low budget idea of a film idea for a horror film, and it's done just well enough in this that it's like it definitely kind of stands out as a film. It was very unnerving, and it's just I love most of the shots, how it's like, because usually in films you really only show the important shots, like, you know, if a character's looking over there, sees nothing, and then looks over there, sees something, there's usually something in the shot or whatever. So it's like, majority of these shots, I don't think there's anything happening or anything there, but it's so unnerving, either if it's pushing in or if it's the music or whatever, and it's like, I think there's a lot of most, if not all of these shots, most of them, of looking at stuff, it's like, there's technically nothing there. I mean, unless I missed something, but like they'll be walking down the street, which actually also reminded me of Halloween, and then they, like, the camera cuts to, you know, the sides of the houses as they're going, and then it cuts back, and then it's like, what was important about that one cutaway to the houses and all that? It just, the way the camera looks around at stuff and wherever, like, she's in the pool, and then you see, like, trees and the squirrels, and it's like, it just, overall, I think it's a well done film, and it kept me going for the whole film. And then it's like, the problem is, I think near the end it sort of not really falls apart, but it just, first of all, like, the really not abrupt ending, but the ending is like, we don't know how much further we're gonna tell the story, and then it's like, well, let's just cut here, you know, let's just roll credits, you know. That's what it sort of felt like. I guess, I mean, they were going for a more, like, an open ending, you know, is it still alive, is it not, but then it's like, we don't know, and I don't know, I can definitely see people hating this film just from the ending and what they got out of the experience of the film, but it's a pretty good film. Had me on edge of my seat in some sections. Like, it just was a tense feeling overall just watching this film. So I honestly say it's it accomplished what it did for an indie sort of horror suspense film. So yeah, so time to watch. I think next up is House on Haunted Hill, which is a remake. I don't have the original, so I assume it's a classic just film. Like, I'm just hoping it's going to be like a classic haunted house type story, a bunch of people staying in a house for money, I think is the plot from what I'm getting from the Scream Shout Factory release of the Blu-ray. So it's like, I guess, you know, it's like, you know, whoever stays in the house longest or stays the whole night, they get money. So it entices various people to go in, and then that's how you get a large group of people who don't really know each other into a house that's supposedly haunted. You know, people die, people murders, you know, weird stuff happens. I don't know. That's what I'm expecting with House on Haunted Hill. So actually, thinking of the title, I guess the house isn't haunted. It's more the hill is haunted. So the house is on Haunted Hill, you know. So I guess that's going to play into it. So time to watch. I just watched House on Haunted Hill, the 1999 remake, or somewhere around then. It was okay. I mean, the first half of the movie is pretty good enough, but I think the second half, the movie kind of, I don't know if it suffers, but it, like, had some interesting little twist things, but they were kind of predictable in the sense that they kind of outdid themselves with the theme park scene in the beginning of the movie, with the psych outs there. So I kind of figured anything's possible because the way they done it is using moving magic. Show it looks as real as possible when literally there's no possible way that they engineered the ride to do it like that. Like the elevator scene I could see, but the roller coaster itself. So after that sort of fake out, it's like it's like I honestly I'm like going for the rest of the movie. It's kind of like there's gonna be more psychos definitely and all that, and they're trying to play it up as though the foolers are gonna be fooled by an actual, haunted sort of thing. And the house itself is a little more of an insane asylum than an actual house. I think they kind of wrote that in just so it's a little more haunted, I guess, having angry spirits and all that. Kind of a little disappointed there. Setup was, generally better off than the payoff for the film overall, especially when the entity thing really shows up, and then it's like it's really crappy 90s, effects, I would say. I mean, it doesn't look too bad. Like, it's good enough to pass, but you could definitely tell it's 90s. 90s or early 2000s, so but then again, Lord of the Rings was early 2000 and that movie looks amazing. Anyways, so House on Haunted Hill, Jeffrey Rush, pretty good job. I mean, kind of felt a little too much like Vincent Price, and apparently Vincent Price, I was reading on the back, is in the original House on Haunted Hill, so you know what, if anything, this movie now makes me really interested in trying to track down a copy of the original House on Haunted Hill. So, in that sense, I guess it was okay enough to a movie that I'm now inspired to go watch the original. So, hopefully someday I'll watch the original. And, who knows, maybe there's other House on Haunted Hill related type remakes that happened in between or after this one, so gotta get the shirt in the shot. Anyways, it's now October and I'm starting to fall behind on my schedule. As you can see, that is why I start this marathon in advance on the 1st of September now, because stuff happens. Anyways, today I'm going to watch for the very first time, I'm going to watch the Predator series. OMG. That's right. Up until this point in my movie watching career, I have seen the first 5 Alien movies. I haven't seen the newest one. I have not seen any of the Predators, and I have not seen any of the Alien versus Predator movies. So, I don't have those ones, but I have the first 4 Predator movies, which I think the newest one just came out a year or 2 ago or something like that. Anyways, I'm a little bit excited to see what this whole series is about. From what I've heard, I think the first one has Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then the second one has is like, instead of the jungle, it's more of a city setting, so it's like Home Alone 2. But I think Donald Glover is in it, or not Donald Glover, Danny Glover is in it, I think, from Lethal Weapon. I think, I'm not sure. I think that's all I really know about the Predator series. That, and I think the 4th one is directed and written by Shane Black, the guy who actually made an appearance in one of the earlier Predator movies, I think. I think he was one of the extras or cast members or whatever. So I think that's what it is. I would have to double check the case, but anyways, I assume it's a little more. It's like Aliens, but a little more action. That's what I assume it's going to be. Well, not Aliens the sequel, because that had a lot of action. I guess it would be more like Aliens than Alien. I assume there's more than one Predator, or is there just one? I don't know. Are they are they from Earth, or are they actually aliens as well? That's why they have the crossover. I don't know. I'm about to find out. Time to watch Predator, the first one. I mean, the first one's not the title, it's just Predator, I think. Or is it Predators? I don't know. I just watched Predator, the first one. And it's kind of easy to see why this turned A into a franchise, and B, it's just from seeing it, I can see why it's sort of created an icon on its own with the Predator and all that. Like, just the sort of setup of the whole movie, like, the beginning, it's like, I mean, technically, this could have just been one of those sort of action military type films that didn't need a sci-fi horror alien added onto it. It's kind of unexpected in the sense that it turns into what it turns into. Like, I don't know how they advertise this movie to begin with or whatever, but like I assume going into it, you're like, oh, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's in like a military outfit, he has the camo and all that, and carrying a big gun, so it's like, oh, it's gonna be, probably action type film, but then, you realize there's more to it, especially when the very first shot of the film is a spaceship and something crashing to Earth. So it's like, I mean, if they didn't have that shot, it would probably be a little more surprising. So it's probably in the plot that the Predator is related to it. But it's just they could have easily have just done not this, and then they did this. Basically the equivalent of the Alien franchise, but different. Yeah, so Shane Black, the director of Iron Man Free, The Nice Guys, and I think the last Predator movie that came out. Yeah, he's in this one. He's in the original one, so that's cool. That's cool. I now know where those two memes come from. The get to the chopper and the handshake meme. So it's kind of cool that now I know where that's from. Memes are always better when you understand where they're from, The special effects for Predator actually felt pretty original, the way they did it. Granted, yeah, we already... most movies at this point, you've already seen what heat sensor thing looks like, so you can already sort of tell what that is. Viewpoint, but the invisibility, even though there's a lot of films that have that sort of invisibility thing, I don't think it's done like this, and I just thought it was kind of cool the way they did it. It looks like it's the same image, but same outline, but just a little more inwards, and then it's duplicated again and again, so it gives like an effect of you can see through, but you can tell something's there. I don't know. I thought it looked pretty damn original and cool. So I wanted to point that out. And the only thing I kind of disliked about this film is the laugh the Predator does at one point in the film. He does a almost bad guy type laugh, and it sounds too human. I'm sorry. They should have done something that sounds like laughing, but it's not. Make it not sound human, because it sounded too human. I'm sorry. That's my gripe for Predator, the first one, is that the noise he should have been making for a laugh shouldn't have sounded like a human laugh. Like, it almost went full on like Vincent Price type laugh, did like the music. He did the soundtrack to Avengers, Forrest Gump, and Back to the Future. And you can kind of, in this movie, it sounds a little bit like Back to the Future with how blunt and how much the music is used throughout it. Alan Silverstraw. It's funny because it's like whenever I see his name, I recognize his name, but when I go to think back how to pronounce his name, and I'm like, I can't remember how it's spelled. Alan Silverstraw. He did. He also did Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and Captain America, The Avengers, Infinity War, Endgame soundtrack, and all that, and the original first Avengers. He didn't do the second one though. It's probably one of the boys. The second one's not as good music-wise. Anyways, soundtrack. I just wanted to make a note of the soundtrack because I liked it. It doesn't stand out as much, but it did. Yeah, I can definitely tell it sounds a bit like the Avengers and Back to the Future sort of combined in terms of soundtrack. Nothing. Soundtrack itself definitely felt a little more military than on the horror side. Like, it's not that sort of dramatic. Like, there are moments where it's like doo-doo surprise, but it's if I listened to the Predator soundtrack on its own, I would have probably never clued in that this is sort of a horror film, you know. Like, it doesn't sound like Aliens. It doesn't sound like, you know, anything like that. But anyways, movie itself, I thought was really good from start to finish. Very easy plot, goes right into it almost. Like there's you know, the setup is easy, is simple enough that it didn't need to hang on to it or it didn't need to, you know, spend a whole, 40 minutes or 30 minutes, setting up the plot or all that. It's like, less than 20 minutes in, we're already into the jungle. So it's a good movie. Predator, first one. I enjoyed it. I wonder if Arnold Schwarzenegger is either referenced or cameos in the second one. That's what I want to know, because I don't remember. I don't think he's in the second one, so I don't know. Maybe he said no to doing it again or something like that. I don't know. Or maybe he was busy with a different movie. I don't know. Time to watch. I want to see if it's... No, Predator 2 is what it's called. It's not called Predators. Then it would really be ripping off Aliens. Actually, what came first? Aliens or Predators? Predator is 1987. When was the first Alien movie? Alien... 1979, 79, 87. Wow, full almost 10 years. Alien predates it. Alien is 1979? Okay, anyway, so Predator 2 is 1990, so I'm going to assume it's going to be a little more on the 90s section. That's the thing about movies in the 90s. It's like, I don't know, there's just something about them that always either stands out or sticks out, like House on Haunted Hill. Like, you can tell that remake was in the 90s just from the way it is. I just watched Predator 2, and where to begin? First of all, the movie came out in 1990, right? They decided to have the movie take place in 1997. So, it's the technical future. That's such a odd choice. Okay. And then, you start off with the little psych out of, oh, it's in the jungle again, and then it's like all of a sudden, the camera's panning up through this forest, and then it's like, boom, Los Angeles. And it jumps right into basically an absolute war of criminals and cops, almost to the point where almost a riot or whatever. I don't know, but like, it's such an interesting way. So technical future, because I don't know. I'm not in Los Angeles, but I there might be shootouts now and then, but I don't think there's anything that big going on where it's it's an all out almost like war. I mean, either that or the news is not covering it as well. So I'm gonna assume this is part of the little bit of the future section where it's like there's an all out. There is. I mean, I assume there could be in real life Los Angeles. There's gangs and they have their territory and all that but I don't know if it's that extreme. Watching it, I'm just waiting for RoboCop to appear. That's what it sort of felt like in the beginning. Danny Glover is in this, and I didn't realize Gary Busey and Bill Paxton is in this. Bill Paxton looks so young. It took me a couple of scenes of him just to figure out that was Bill Paxton, or whether or not it was. This movie sort of left more questions than answers, especially specifically with the ending and the gun that was given. And okay, so like, I guess they're trying to set up something with the Predator thing, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm not sure if they knew what exactly they were gonna do with it. There was the reference of in the spaceship there was a skull of a skull of the alien head from Alien series, which I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've seen Aliens. I don't think they exactly have a human skull long version of their head, because I know their head is in that shape, but it's I don't know if that works on their end, which actually makes me question it, because Predators first and second one, 20th Century Fox opens it up, so and last time I checked, Aliens series is owned by Fox, 20th Century Fox. Now it would be Disney, but did they want to combine them both? I want to know the story behind Aliens vs. Predators, which is coming, which I think would be the next ones to watch before watching the Predators reboot and The Predator, which is the newest one. But I don't have those movies, so I think I'm just going to continue on with the Predators. Second one was okay. I did like the subway scene just because it was shot in such a way that you didn't know what was happening. The lighting with flashing was in such a way that there's literally these gaps where there's nothing happening, but you see them, like they're staying, like Bill Paxton shooting over here, and then all of a sudden he's moving over here, and there's citizens in the line of fire and all that, and to me that was kind of the highlight of the film. That and sort of the bathroom scene was a little weird with the alien. Like there was moments where it's like I felt like the way they edited or the way they structured the time of things happening in a scene did not work out as realistically as possible, in the sense that, like, for example, the alien crashes through the window and bathroom, and meanwhile Danny Glover is on the other side of the building, so the alien swung over, crashed through the thing. He has to get down a pipe, couple pipes, and then move over to another pipe, and then move over to that to get over to that side of the building. And the Predator, in the same time, he takes out his med kit, is kind of healing himself and all that, and then by the time Danny Glover reaches there, the people in that apartment all of a sudden come out and be like, "Oh, I heard a noise in the bathroom." And I know they were portrayed as a little bit older and they were watching Jeopardy or whatever, but realistically, when they crash through the thing, that's when that scene of, "Hey, I heard a noise," should have happened. Like, I just felt like editing wise there was some suspension of disbelief that was held a little too long in when things were supposed to happen, you know? I don't know if I explained that properly, but yeah, I felt like some things should happen a little sooner. So I just clued in by the sequel. Apparently, because I don't know if this was in the first one or not, or mentioned as much, but apparently they're kind of recording audio, the Predators, or Predator in the first one, and they sometimes use the audio. So I don't know if maybe that laugh that I didn't like from the first one, maybe that was audio recorded early on, but I don't remember anyone laughing like that earlier on, so I'm a little confused on where exactly the audio of that came from, because in this one it was clearly shown, like, for example, the kid is offering the Predator, hey, you want some candy, and, you know, later on he uses that line and all that. The Predator uses that line, and so it's like, it's weird, and I'm just trying to figure out the motivation. The more I watch the second one, the more I'm like, why is the Predators doing this? Predator. Spoiler, I guess there's more than one by the end of it. What are they doing, and why are they doing it? And it's like, they left the spaceship. Spoiler, I guess. Gave him a gun from, like, what was it, 1500s or whatever, old pirate gun, and it's like there's a name on it, and it's like, to me, it's like, ooh, are they trying to set up a sequel? Did the third one movie just never happened because this one bombed or whatever? I don't know, but like, I guess, I mean, I looked it up. Aliens vs. Predators. The first one was like what, mid 2000s, so it took them like 15 years to do the Aliens vs. Predators. So a part of me's like, there's something in between that, you know, I guess they didn't agree on where they were going with the Predators series or whatever, and then after that and its sequel for Aliens vs. Predator, I guess they were like, hey, let's reboot Predator. That's the 2010 movie, or I think it was around there, and then they did the newer one, which came out like last couple years ago or whatever. I don't know, but it definitely, I'm interested, but at the same time I'm like, not. The first movie was good on its own. I felt like the second one, kind of, it was cool where they went, because it's like, you know, you see the Predator in the jungle, it would make sense, hey, instead of doing another movie in the jungle, let's see what the Predators do in the city. And I'm like, that's cool, that has potential. And it's like, this movie, I felt, executed it okay for its time. Not sure, just little weird choices on what they did overall story with the gang fights and all that, and it just, I'm left with more questions than answers. Actually, I just realized it. They kind of left something hanging with the, because there was the subway scene. Bill Paxton gets, okay, well, I mean, I'm spoiling it at this point, but it turns out the lady, and it turns out the woman that they were working with was pregnant, and she got carried away in the ambulance, and then it's like, that's the last we hear of her, and then, you know, the whole ending part happens, and it's like, I mean, I guess she lives, and it's like, another question is like, are you telling me predators don't attack children or young? I guess, I mean, it was established they don't really attack those without a weapon, but I don't know. Was somebody caught in the crossfire by the predators or at some point? I don't know. It's I guess they have standards, because, you know, predators have standards. I don't know what to think of what the third one's going to be, because I assume that's when they decide, hey, let's sort of remake the first one. So I assume it's going to be like a remake, reboot sort of thing. So, Predators, because they couldn't figure out what to do title-wise. They want to call it Predator Free, and they didn't want to, I guess they were like, hey, let's do like Aliens, Predator, Predators. I kind of hope it's not just a direct remake of Predator, but it's probably mostly going to be very similar to Predator, because I think when this came out, it was around the time where it's like, hey, if a horror film's old enough, let's just remake it with newer special effects and that, and it'll be just, no one will remember the original. But unfortunately, film is forever, so even if 30 or 20 or whatever amount of years pass, you could very easily remember the film just by putting on the original film. So that's kind of the problem with the remakes like that, in the sense it's like, hey, you know what, they haven't really did an up-to-date version, let's make it better, you know. And I mean, I guess it has heart going in remake-wise, but then granted, I actually haven't seen Predators yet, the remake, or is it a remake? Maybe it's a sequel. Maybe it's related to what they set up in the first two movies, but everyone went into it thinking it's a remake of Predators, or Predator. Damn plural. Anyways, time to watch Predators, or the third one technically. I just watched Predators, and I gotta say, overall, I actually quite enjoyed Predators. You know, I thought the first one jumped into it quite easily. This one really jumped into it. In fact, it jumped into it so quickly that I actually, it was, granted, I don't remember seeing any of the trailers for this movie, or that, even though the movie came out in 2010, around that time. I do remember a little bit of it, but I don't remember the trailer specifically. So going into the movie, not sure exactly how the plot was going to go. It was a little bit too predictable. Like, in the first 5 minutes of the movie, maybe in less than that, I already kind of figured they're on another planet. They've been picked up by the predators and are basically used as sport. And it didn't mind me sort of how predictable it was, because I'm like, it gives a very good excuse to have these people trying to survive. You get to see the predators in action. And so plot-wise and script-wise, it actually was, I thought it was kind of well thought of, in the sense that, how do you reboot or remake Predators without actually, you know, really, actually, no, this movie actually, I just really remembered, it just technically confirmed that this takes place after the first movie. So, the only thing that wasn't mentioned was the second movie. And I can kind of see why, because, you know, after seeing the second movie, I can see why they wanted to avoid that movie. But Predators is quite enjoyable. I mean, great cast. I mean, you got Adrian Brody, Trophy Grace, the guy from Spider-Man 3, Venom, Eddie Brock. I remember his character names more than actor's name, how to say it, pronounce it correctly. You know, Danny Trejo, Machete, and then you got Walter Goggins, which is a surprise. You know, Ant-Man and the Wasp and Hateful Eight, and then Mahershala Ali, two-time Best Supporting Actor winner Oscar. Most recently Green Book and Moonlight. So you got a great cast. I don't recognize anyone else though. Robert Rodriguez is producing this movie, and I kind of thought it was interesting, because it's like, you know, you see the Troublemakers logo in it, and I'm like, I kind of forgot that Robert Rodriguez is related to that company. So as soon as it started, and it's like, and then Danny Trejo pops up, I'm like, yeah, this is definitely a Robert Rodriguez produced film. But yeah, I overall really enjoyed Predators. I liked where it went and all that, sort of the structure of it. I liked how they touched on, you know, we're predators on Earth and hunting other people, and it's like, And it's like that's what they're basically doing, but with us, and it's like they sort of touch on, I guess, a theme of Predators. Specific ending, I felt was okay way to end it. I don't know if they were planning to do a sequel or whatnot, but next up, I believe, is the Shane Black directed and written Predator, or The Predator, I think it's called. Should be interesting to see how that one goes. That one came out just recently, a year or two ago, not even. Same guy who did Iron Man 3, and I liked Iron Man 3. The Nice Guys was okay. I didn't really see the big deal about that film, but I wouldn't mind rewatching it just to, I don't know. I like some bits of The Nice Guys. It was okay. Anyways, I wonder if the movie takes place around Christmas time. Because apparently it's not a Shane Black movie unless it takes place somewhere around Christmas or Christmas is mentioned. Like Iron Man 3. So, time to watch The Predator. I just finished The Predator. The fourth one, technically. It is... I'm quite surprised. I actually really enjoyed The Predator. It was... And surprisingly, it actually made the third one seem a little... In the grand scheme of the four movies, the third one seemed a little bit pointless. It's kind of weird because it's like... I really enjoyed the humor. The humor might have been a little bit more on the too much side for the fourth one, but I really that kind of made it more entertaining from beginning to end. I liked how the plot, you kind of knew where it was going, but at the same time you didn't really know where it was going with it. Some of the special effects in that did seem kind of low, like the same thing with the Predators, the third one. It felt like some of the budget felt lowered or felt like very little bit cheap, but overall I'm actually really enjoyed it. The Predator might be my favorite Shane Black movie I've ever seen. I might have enjoyed it a little too much, just in the sense that I'm actually kind of tired. It's early morning at this point, and that might have helped my experience of seeing it. But I thought it was good. Assumingly they're gonna make a sequel, it's like, what is it gonna do? Is they're gonna just it's gonna be Iron Man, but like the Predator Killer Man and suit of armor. Like, I don't know. It just pretty fun. I really enjoyed the busts of mental institute type characters. I will say that probably the second one is the worst film. And here's the thing: is like they did acknowledge the second film in the fourth movie, and the problem is, it's like I'm thinking it's like the second film, for starters, took place in the near future of when the film was released, so 90s, so 97. So it's like there's little aspects in the film where it's like, oh, it's a little more futuristic, like it's still 90s, but just a little more imaginative in the terms of I think the guns specifically was the thing that stuck out to me the most. And this Predator movie, which I assume takes place, it didn't say a date, but I assume it would be modern day now, so 2019. Hypothetically, if they were still going along the slightly future angle of it, of humans, it's like, I didn't really see anything that was that creative. But in the sense of the story and where it went was very creative, very original, and I actually I liked how this one, I do applaud the fourth and the second movie for doing what they attempted to do. The third movie, in hindsight of seeing all four movies, felt like it was the most safest choice to do a Predators movie. That's why it kind of seems a little of the, not off, but like seems a bit of an outlier. Because that one was good as well, but it was more contained of a film. Because I guess they didn't really know what to do world building wise, especially after. Because the first one had little world building. It was more about, introducing the Predator and dealing with them for the first time. Predator 2, they were like, okay, let's really expand it. Let's go into the city, throw the reference to Alien that actually ended up spawning Aliens vs. Predators, which I haven't seen yet. Kind of excited to see that. I kind of hate to say it, but I think my favorite film is The Predator, the fourth one. Just from how much entertaining it was. The violence, like even the kills were kind of creative and all that. Which one's the best Predator movie? It kind of would have to be the first one still, just because of just how iconic what they did, what they built it, the way that movie was shot and all that. Like it definitely felt that they did such a good job with the first one, and I felt like that one's the best, but I really like the fourth one. that's my opinion. Good morning. Okay, time to watch Hell House. I don't know anything about this film except for the fact that it came out recently, or not recently now, but Scream Shout Factory. I mean, at this point, this whole thing might as well be brought to you by Scream/Shout Factory. But that's not the case. Not sponsored. But anyways, with Hell House, I'm just kind of hoping for a crazy horror house. Like, I don't even know how old this film is. Is it 80s? Is it the 70s? Anything will probably be better than House on Haunted Hill remake that I saw at this point. But let's see if it delivers. Okay, so I made a mistake with the title of the film. It's not Hell House, it's Hell Night is the name of the movie. So, I apologize for that. Anyways, I just watched Hell Night. And, given the time and how older of a film, it's not that bad of a low-budget horror film. They did pretty much okay with it. I don't really know anything I could really complain about. I guess, it's pretty, not cheesy per se, but like, I don't know, it's just because it's like, I went into it expecting it's gonna be sort of like a haunted house sort of thing, so I guess in that sense I'm a little bit disappointed, because there's a bit of haunted house to it, but it's more killers running around thing. It's more like, it kind of reminded me of Hills Have Eyes for some reason. I've never seen the original, so it would have to be the remake, in the sense that it's like, here's a story of, something that happened here or whatever, and then it's like, and the story is the family that killed themselves, or the father killed them, the children. Some of them were like, one was deaf, dumb, and blind. One was, ugly, apparently, and stuff like that. So it's like, very weird setup in the sense that it's like, overall, I thought it was okay. Hell House is okay. There was enough about it that was kind of memorable. But overall it was pretty okay, I guess. I mean, not bad considering what is the 70s. I would say late 70s. Oh, 1981. Okay, so it was later than I thought. It actually felt older than what it was. uh, the Scream Factory transfer was actually pretty good. I mean, they said at the beginning, it's like, from the available film elements, they did their best to restore things to its proper thing or whatever. So there's a couple moments throughout the film where you can tell the footage that they have is not as good. And I kind of, it's one of those things where it kind of adds to the charm of the film, because it's like there's one outside shot where it pans up, but because it skips a couple frames, it's like, you know, a bit shaky in the sense of frame rate. And it just, I don't know, it's little stuff like that that kind of makes these type of films a little bit better, unfortunately, and more spookier per se. But overall, I liked it. Kind of wish it was more of a classic haunted house type movie, but oh well. Enough about that. It was definitely a hell of a lot better than House on Haunted Hill, the 90s remake, so well, at least it has that going for it. Anyway, so next up, I don't know if it is a horror film, but I have on my list Straw Dogs. That's the problem, is when you haven't seen the films, you're not exactly sure if it's horror or not. I'm under the impression Straw Dogs is a little bit like Deliverance, in that sense of type of film. So I'm very curious to see what it is. So time to watch Straw Dogs. I just watched Straw Dogs, and wow, it's I would classify this around the same as Deliverance. I mean, they're both two totally different movies, but it's around that sort of type of horror. So very unsettling type film. The whole small town aspect of it, in the middle of a secluded, I think they were in England or Scotland or somewhere around there, and it's very nice place, very peaceful, but then it's like everybody knows everyone, and you know, not to spoil it, shit happens. Very well. I can definitely see why Criterion picked it up. I definitely liked the way they sort of edited, because it was very the shots that aren't random but like supposed to allude to what the characters are thinking about or what's happening. It's like it's all chaotic. It makes sense, but it's just it's not random per se, but it seems random in the sense like. And I kind of like that about the film, because it made it more unsettling. Definitely a pretty cool siege film by the end of it. It's based on a novel called like Siege of some farm or whatever, but like it's Straw Dogs was very good, very good. I'm glad the bear trap was used. I mean, okay, the bear trap's been there since the beginning scene. So if that wasn't used by the end of the film, I would have probably been very disappointed, and I was not disappointed at all. Well done film. Doesn't hold up as well, I felt. Like it does show a little bit of its age, but overall. Straw Dogs is a pretty good horror film. I classify it as horror, okay? Fight me. So next up is The Howling. Howling? I only have the first one. Main reason, I wasn't going to get The Howling. I wasn't going to pick it up, but I discovered the director is Joe Dante, and he did Matinee, and I kind of really liked Matinee, so I'm now a lot more curious and checking out some of his other stuff. So I'm like, okay, werewolf film, Howling, I'll pick it up, and I did. So What to expect with the Howling? I think, if I remember reading the back, it was a while ago. I have it upstairs. I don't break it down. I think Slim Pickens is in this film. I could be mistaken. He was in Doctor Strangelove. So it'd be cool seeing him in a film that isn't Doctor Strangelove. So that's about it. Expectation. I assume werewolf. Good werewolf film. I haven't really seen a lot of werewolf films now that I think about it. I've never seen Werewolf in London. I never seen, I've only really seen the original Wolfman. And I mean, Van Helsing had some werewolves. Yeah, very, very lacklusting on the. I have very little werewolf type movies I've seen, so I guess The Howling would be good to watch it. So time to watch The Howling. I just watched The Howling, and to be completely honest, I did not. I was very uninterested in this film. Like the first bit, I'm like, okay, so this is a very interesting way of introducing, werewolves, or some sort of werewolf style movie sort of plot, and I was very uninterested, and I don't know if it's because I'm a little bit tired and I've watched several movies lately, so it's one of those things where it's like, am I fatigued or did I just not like the movie? And the second half of the film a little bit better, and then after seeing the ending, I kind of understood where it went, why it went there, and all that. So it's like it was okay overall. I don't know what else to say. Slim Pickens was in it, not as much. Transformations were really the best parts of The Howling, but even then it was you ever think it's really funny? It's like the main person is there as the werewolf starts to transform, and it's like it takes about 6 minutes for it to transform fully, and it's like in that time you could have got away, because it's not instant until the script of the movie actually needs the transformation to be more instant. It's always the sort of little sly thing. It's like you could have like when they were transforming at the barn, the guy with the silver bullet gun could have just shot them before they even finished transforming, because it's 6 minutes it takes for one to transform. He could have actually killed them all. So it's a little bit kind of funny there in that sense, but it was okay. Matinee was a hell of a lot better of a film. I can't remember if Joe Dante did anything. I think, did he do Gremlins? Or was that someone else? Definitely probably the worst film I felt overall that I've seen by him. And it wasn't that bad of a film. Next up we got Urban Legend. The murder mystery, I guess. I'm not sure. Jared Leto was in it. This one, I guess I'm hoping for something where there's I guess it's gonna be there's an urban legend about some killer going around or whatever, and then it's like the urban legend starts to come true, and then they have to figure out who it is, and then stop them from continuing. And I assume that's gonna how it goes, but I don't know. Maybe there's more to this film. Maybe there's less. I don't know. Time to watch Urban Legend. I don't have the sequel, by the way, so I'm just only gonna be watching this one. So, hey, I just watched Urban Legend, and this was a lot better than I thought it was gonna be. It was actually really good. I felt like it was I love the way it was shot. You could tell they definitely put a little bit of effort in just the way they went around filming it. Pretty well done. Though there's a little bit of a far-fetch with little things throughout it that I sort of... It's, if you think about it, you're like, yeah, no, but who cares? It was quite entertaining. And trying to figure out who it is, not going to spoil it, but there was two characters that I'm like, it's either this character or this character, and it played back and forth throughout, and then it's like it's who it was. I was like, wow, I didn't guess. So in that sense, it's definitely well enough there on trying to figure out who it is, and I thought it was good. Kind of remind me. I want to know if this came out before Scream or after. 1998 Scream. The first one was Internet. 1996. Yeah, so Scream came out first. So this movie would have probably been somewhat influenced by Scream in the sense of horror tropes. So they were like, with urban legend, they're like, let's do it around urban legends. And for the most part, the film was pretty good. I felt like it went into an extra inning with the last climactic bit, but it kind of makes sense that they did that way just for the ending scene. Which sort of wraps it all together. I'm actually kind of sad that I don't have the sequel right now. So I'm now very interested in seeing the sequel. I love the way it was shot. Like even just the beginning with the gas station, the overhead shots, the crane and all that. I thought it was really well put together, considering this is 90s. That reminds me of a lot of nostalgia. Even though I didn't really experience this as much, the internet and the phone being hooked up to the same thing. Soundtrack, kind of cool. At the party scene, they actually used Weird Al's there was a song. I have that song too. I know that song. Okay, so it has listed here the original song, which is Zoot Suit Riot, but I'm pretty sure that it was Grapefruit Diet by Weird Al. I now don't know. I want to go back and rewatch the film, that one scene, but did I actually mistake the original song version for the Weird Al version? No, it had to be the Weird Al version. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below if it's actually the Weird Al version. Am I just hearing things? I don't know. Next up, I got a double feature of a movie that I wasn't sure if I should have watched. A movie I'm not sure if I should watch around Christmas or Halloween. I'm guessing because I'm watching it now. It's Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 1 and Part 2. So it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Blood everywhere. I assume it's gonna be good old-fashioned Christmas horror, but I haven't really seen, really the only other Christmas horror film I've seen is Nightmare Before Christmas, and that's not really horror, is it? I mean, it does have some elements of horror. But no, that's not horror. So that's really the only scary or Halloween Christmas movie that, even then, that movie I don't know, is it better to watch around Christmas or around Halloween? I've seen it, and I'm still debating on whether that's technically a Halloween film or a Christmas film. I have no idea what the movie's about, so totally blind. I think there's a guy in a Santa costume killing people. I assume that's the plot of the entire film. So let's watch Silent Night, Deadly Night. I just watched Silent Night, Deadly Night, and it's good in all the bad ways. Very, just from the first, opening bit, or I should just say the incident that sort of kicks off this whole film. After that, I knew what I was getting into. I can definitely see why this film might have been slightly controversial one. For information, I watched the unrated version over the theatrical version, just because the unrated version, even though it does have scenes that were they couldn't find the original negatives for or something like that, so they did their best to restore those scenes to match the rest of the film. And which you can tell, but Scream Factory, Shout Factory did actually a pretty good job with getting the footage to at least somewhat match. Like, you can notice it, but it's not terrible. Like I would say Exorcist III, the what is it? Extended cut, alternate cut. I forget the name of that specific cut. But anyways, this is definitely the kind of film where the filmmakers knew exactly what kind of film they were aiming to do, and they set out and did it. Very creative on some of the kills, I would say. Once again, I still don't know if I would watch this film around Christmas, but it is definitely heavily Christmas themed. Overall, it was kind of like the very, very ending last line just before the credits. Actually, it's kind of made me laugh just how it's cheesy and dark it is. But overall, it was actually kind of short. I'm actually surprised for the unrated version, because assumingly every time it gets to the lower quality footage, that's the footage that was cut from the unrated version. So it makes me think that the theatrical version of film is definitely quite butchered when it comes to editing. I wouldn't mind watching the theatrical cut eventually, but not today. I don't have time. I have too many horror films I have to watch. But yeah, all the stuff that was cut out did seem really kind of necessary in the sense of to show what happens, and also there was a lot of it that was cut out that seemed like it was more there to build suspense, and it's like without that sort of built-in suspense, the payoff of what happens isn't as, good. So, from what I've seen, the unrated cut is very good, and I felt like it definitely feels like this is the more truer version of the final film. So, if you've never seen it, Silent Night, Deadly Night, and you're interested in seeing it, I would definitely recommend the extended unrated cut compared to the theatrical one, even though I haven't seen the theatrical one. So next up is part 2, and I just wonder how they're going to continue it. So that's basically going into the second one. That's all I can think about is like, how does it continue? Like, is it literally gonna be from the ending? The person who said the last line. Is he gonna be the grow up to be just like him? Oh gosh, it's probably gonna go that route. Horror sequels don't really have the best track record for being good in general. So, let's see if part 2 matches the original. Time to watch Silent Night, Deadly Night, part 2. This movie. And it may be the worst horror sequel I have ever seen. Ever. I thought A Nightmare on Elm Street 2 was horrible for a horror sequel. I thought The Exorcist 2 was decently bad for a horror sequel. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. But Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2 is... I gotta say, that's the worst horror sequel I have ever seen. For starters, an hour and a half movie, somewhere around there, and the first 40 minutes of the movie is them recapping, almost scene by scene, the entire first movie. You know, I figured it's okay, it's part 2, and I'm like, okay, they're gonna show a couple of key things from the first one. No, they show basically the entire film. Like, I'm just trying to think what was actually cut out of the film. Like, I might as well skip the first film and then gone straight to the second one. That's just, it would save me a hell of a lot of time. But the first movie is actually good compared to this. So maybe I should just skip the sequel. Though I will say the casting of the main guy in this, it does seem like he is the true brother of the guy from the first one. So I thought that was good. But yeah, the nightmare is about to begin again. It just takes, I think, an hour and 15 minutes of the movie to get to the part that you would expect the whole movie to be. Like, they should have reworked this film script wise. Like, I don't know if it's budget or what the hell they were thinking. Because it's like, okay, so he's in the mental hospital and then he escapes from it. Like, that should have been the first 20-30 minutes of the movie. But no, that's like an hour into the movie. Like, when they finish playing the first movie, basically, I mean, they do interchange very little with the mental hospital, because he's explaining, you know, his past and all that. It's very little, so it's like most of it, like, they didn't have to show so much of the first movie. But I guess they really had to pad it out, because if you got rid of the first 40 minutes of the movie, part 2 is only like 40 minutes long. I mean, this movie they should have just thrown as an extra for the first movie, Scream and Shout Factory, and say it comes with part 1 and 2. But I guess they didn't really want to tank the first one and be like, let's do a separate release for part 2, because not a lot of people, I mean, those who are a fan of the first one probably didn't like the second one that much. But it was funny, because I just finished watching the first movie. There was an error, continuity error. I'm pretty sure it's a continuity error. The character, there was a character that was a mistaken identity for the first one, so I guess kind of spoiler for the first one. The priest, like, I think they said Old Man Mally or something, it was coming over for the kids to be dressed as Santa, and the police mistake him as the killer with the Santa suit, so they shoot him in front of the kids. So in this movie, the guy explains it as it was the janitor that came over, and so that was a mistake. I'm pretty sure that's a mistake. I could have misheard the first movie, but I'm pretty sure it was not the janitor of the place that was coming over in the Santa suit. So I think that is a mistake script-wise, continuity-wise. After they finish showing the first movie again, he escapes, and I'm like, or no, before he even finishes fully escaping from the mental hospital, they show him, you know, how he sort of got into killing people, and it's so random, silly, and almost pointless in the sense that, like, it's barely, like, I mean, for starters, like, it wasn't Christmas or anything. It wasn't anything I expect from a sequel to Silent Night, Deadly Night, and it's very why. Like, and then he falls in love with this girl, and then the whole feeder scene, which I give you, is like an hour into the film is the feeder scene, and the bully in the feeder is like, get on with the film, and I'm like, wow, this film is really turning meta. But then it shows that they're watching so not only did we finish sitting through a recap of the first movie, but in the movie theater that they're sitting down for the date, they're watching, and she mentions is like, oh, what movie are we watching? And the girl's like, oh, it's I love this one. It's the tale of a Santa killing people, and I'm like, and it shows the footage from the first movie of the convenience store scene that happened before he killed the family in the first one, and it's like, and I'm like, my gosh, why? I mean, if you, from a low budget standpoint, doing that makes perfect sense, because it's like cheap. You just have to get the rights to the footage, to reusing it. I mean, you're doing the sequel, so getting the rights to the first one should be perfectly easy. So for a low budget standpoint, this is big brain right here, using footage from the first movie to be the fake movie in that they're watching. So this is a big brain movie. I would say big brain sequel. But yeah, and then the scene where he totally loses it, in the sense, like he says the line, like it's highlighted on the back here, it's garbage day, and I'm like, because the whole premise is like, oh, if they're naughty, he's gonna kill them, because naughty people, kids and all that, don't, that's what they get punished. Like, that's the whole key thing of this. Sad to call this a franchise. He kills the guy at the car, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that was gonna happen. I was pretty sure. And then he kills the girl, and I'm like, okay, that's, I can kind of see the relation on why he would do that in that specific situation. But even then, and then all of a sudden, the police comes by, and then he, turns the gun on him, basically, somehow, and then he just goes and just starts shooting all the neighbors, and I'm like, what the? Okay, well, this guy is clearly even lost, because he doesn't even have any of the motive that his brother had in the first movie. Like, that's all lost, and it's stupidly funny. The guy's pulling out the trash, and it's like, it's garbage day. like it's unfortunate that's the highlight of the film. It's pretty sad when that's the highlight of the film. Anyways, but yeah, Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. I just want to move on with my life. Next up, we're going from Christmas to Valentine's with the movie Valentine. I really like the tagline for this film. I assume it's a guy dressed up a bit like Cupid with a bow going around getting revenge on everyone. I assume it's going to be like a, not Carrie type situation, but something like that. Probably school, high school, maybe middle school. I don't think it would be that young. I think it would probably be high school or college. It's easier to get away with murder that way, in the sense for films and TV, because having kids getting murdered, that would be, or doing the murdering, that's difficult to do film. I don't really know anything about the film. I just heard about it in the sense that it's like Valentine's Day killer type thing. So. I mean, might as well make every holiday a horror film. I mean, I finally get that joke in Grindhouse with the Thanksgiving horror film trailer, because it's like, Thanksgiving. And now I'm starting to think, it's like, what films haven't been turned into holidays? Let's make those into horror films. Has anyone done Easter Day yet? Let's do Easter. Anyways, time to watch Valentine. I just watched Valentine. And, I wasn't really expecting the movie that I got, but it works. No, I was waiting the whole movie for the reveal because I knew they were saving the blood dripping from the nose reveal. I just didn't think it was gonna be the very last thing. But yeah, it was. The funny thing is, this is the kind of movie where the ending, like the twist of a twist, kind of saves the big picture of the entire film. I felt. I will say though, because I thought it was okay overall. Some of the kills were kind of original, and the way they went around it as well. Though some of it is a little bit, I would say, bullcrap in the suspension disbelief, like the beginning of the hot tub scene. Near the end, like there's a little bit of, I don't know if that's humanly possible to be that silent and that quick. But I will praise, I really do like the design of the killer with the mask and the black sort of suit with the black gloves. Like it's simple but effective, because I mean the mask is doing most of the iconic bit of it, but I mean, isn't most killers the mask is the most iconic part of them? So I was just reading on the back here, directed by the same guy who did Urban Legends, and you know what, I can see, I could definitely see that. Overall, I thought it was good enough. I felt like maybe it could have been a bit better. I'm getting drowned out, and I have at least 2 more movies to finish today. If I'm even gonna have a chance to having this all done by Halloween. So next up is Dracula, Prince of Darkness, and that is gonna be the first Hammer horror film I have ever seen. I haven't seen any of the Hammer horror films. Those are the films, I think they're made by a specific company. They're not exactly studio, I don't think. Like Hammer, I think they were like low budget. Okay, hold on. Let me make sure I'm saying what the right British film production company based in London. Founded in 1934, it's known for a series of gothic horror films made from mid-1950s until 1970s. Never mind. Okay, so I have seen Hammer horror film, because I always associate Hammer horror films with like the older company stuff, but apparently they did The Woman in Black with Daniel Radcliffe, so I saw that, so my mistake. Apparently this is not the first or the second, because I saw the sequel for The Woman in Black. So scratch that. It'll be my first of the older Hammer horror films, so pre 2000s, way before 2000s. I don't even know what the year of the. I don't even know, because there's so many of the Hammer horror films. I honestly don't know if there's a specific order how you're supposed to watch it. Like I'm looking at now, produced eight Dracula films, and Prince of Darkness is the second one. So, I mean, given how many they made of various things, I don't really care to watch them in order or whatnot. So I'm just gonna watch them as is. And main reason I'm interested in this movie is Christopher Lee is the main star of the show, and I'm excited to see his performance of the iconic Dracula. So here we go, time to watch Dracula, Prince of Darkness. I just watched Dracula, Prince of Darkness, and it was good. I enjoyed it. I liked it. they gave a choice between the US version and the UK version of the film. I looked online very briefly, and I think the UK one, from what I was reading, was a little bit slightly censored when it came to any sort of the blood scenes, or edited a little bit more or something like that. So, from hearing that, I chose the US version of the film, which, I mean, apparently they're both 4K scans, but one's done by, I think, for example, the US version starts with the 20th Century Fox logos, where the UK version doesn't, I think. And I just thought it was interesting because after watching the US version, I very quickly went to the UK version just to see slight differences. And for some reason, the UK United Kingdom version of the film, I don't know, it just felt slightly more colorful, a lot less grainy, because the US version, it's you can tell it's film, and it's very busy. Little, you see little marks and scratches and stuff as the film's going. That's just the product of just the how well the film has been kept, over time. The UK version looks very clean. Like, it doesn't look like it has grain, but it's nowhere near as much as the US version. And I didn't really notice from what the scenes I rewatched was there was hardly any of those lines and stuff, flickers and stuff. So it's like, I don't know, maybe I should have watched the UK version first. But I guess if I ever go to rewatch this film, I'll rewatch the UK version. But either way, I still really enjoyed the film overall. Amazing how Christopher Lee can make such an impression, but he didn't have a single piece of dialogue in the entire film. I think his only thing he said was, I think he did like a roar thing. I mean, that was very poorly done on my end. There's no way I can capture the original Christopher Lee performance of Dracula, but no, mine's a demented version of Dracula. But overall, yeah, I liked it. It was a nice change of pace from the last couple films I've watched. Let's continue that trend, because I have one more Hammer horror film to watch. My last one of today is going to be Frankenstein Created Women, I think is the name of it. The only reason I'm even invested in, and the reason I bought the film, is to see Peter Cushing in another role that isn't Star Wars, because I'm only really know him from that. So I'm just very, because I want to see what, because for example, Dracula Prince of Darkness, it was the sequel. I mean, when the opening part of the film, it shows sort of almost a recap of how he was defeated in the last movie, so that kind of spoiled the first one for me, but I still would like to see the first Dracula of the Hammer horror section. Oh, 6 sequels to The Curse of Frankenstein, so that means it's actually the 4th one in the series, so I don't know, maybe I should, let's just jump into it. That means Dracula Prince of Darkness would be the 3rd one. Yeah, Dracula Prince of Persia. That was actually the 3rd movie I just watched, apparently. Yeah, so anyways, I'm still excited whatever the hell I'm about to get into. So, Frankenstein Created Women. That's an interesting title. Let's see what we got. Time to watch. I just watched Frankenstein Created Women. And I liked the Hammer Dracula Prince of Darkness. I think I kind of love this film. just the overall story plot and just the way they went around the because it's like Frankenstein, but it seems like a more original way of going around Frankenstein. And I know this is like the third or fourth one in the series or something like that. I'm really interested to track down the rest of these. Peter Cushing is so fun to watch in this. Like, it's not laugh out loud funny, but you know it's just that energy he sort of puts into the role and subdue, but it's just he was just fun to watch. And the rest of the cast did a pretty good job as well. I don't recognize anybody name wise, but yeah, so I thought it was really good. I liked it. The only thing that's annoying me about the Hammer films is when they end, they just end. Like, literally, as soon as the climax is resolution, credits are rolling. Like, it barely almost has a chance to breathe, and it's just credits, and it's like, I have to now track down the rest of them. That should be fun because, like I said, I have the very cheap Hammer collection, which I only bought for the Phantom of the Opera movie, because the 60s version that Hammer did, that Phantom of the Opera has not had a Blu-ray release outside of that one collection, so that's really the only reason why I got that small one. But I've seen there's the bigger Hammer box set, and they're like if you can even find one, it's like, $200 or something each, and even then I don't think that has all of them. But that's for a later day to deal with. Next up, we got the Purge trilogy. Trilogy I've never seen. Well, technically now there's 4 of them because there's the prequel. I think it's the first Purge or whatever. But anyways, this is a series I've always been interested in watching. Just the idea of it's like, okay, so for a holiday type event, one day every year, all crime is legal. Like, you can get away with murder, you can, steal what you want. There's no consequences until that day ends. When that day ends, if you do anything, it's now illegal. So that's kind of a cool original premise in the sense of horror, I guess. I can't think of anything else that comes close to that I know of. But anyways, the first movie I did see a lot of clips, and I think I've seen the overall story because I think I watched, I'm going to say Nostalgia Critic did a review on The Purge, the first one. I think. Either that or somebody else. But if I remember correctly, so I basically know what's going to happen in the first one. I just haven't seen any reviews or whatever for the second or third one. So I'm going to watch the first one because I've never actually seen the movie from beginning to end. That's so technicality. So time to watch The Purge. I actually don't even remember the film except for I know because of the first one it's like low budget. It all takes place in like one house and it's sort of the night of the Purge. So it's not really the idea of what's happening is done budget wise just in a small contained area. The second one, because the first one was so popular, that's when they start doing the actual city. And I assume the third one would be you see the entire country, I assume. I think the franchise did well enough that, they did the fourth one. So, at least for the second and third one, there's probably a decent budget there. But the first one's probably low budget, just in the sense that it's one house type story. It's probably, if I remember correctly, it's classic home invasion, almost The Strangers type, coming with masks and stuff. Anyways, time to watch The Purge. I just watched The Purge, and technically I've already kind of seen it because of the Nostalgia Critic review, but, seeing it start to finish with nothing cut out of it, it's I'm surprised how much I actually forgot about the movie, but then how much I remembered just as I was watching it. Like, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, this is how it ends. Oh yeah, this happens. Yeah, it's neat. Anyways, yeah, once again, it's easy to see why this is more of a franchise now, because it's, you know, a simple idea done low budget but well enough that it leaves more to the imagination of the whole event of the Purge, and it's like, what's happening with the rest of America? Can you only imagine? I mean, if this is happening in this one house in this one neighborhood, what is it like out there, you know? And so it's very easy to see why this movie did well, and then, you know, sequels, money. So, and, yeah, pretty good, except there's a couple of moments where it's like, you know, I felt like things could have went definitely a lot, or should have went differently than what they did with it, but, for example, when they knocked the guy out, it's like, in that situation, in that moment, you know, if I was even Hawk, I would have already been dragging him down the stairs, because I assume they were on the second floor, down to the door to say I got him, you know, instead of, you know, spending, I assume it would take 20 minutes to tie him up in the chair and all that. So meanwhile, it's like the time's running out, and the pressure of, oh, we're gonna give him to the people outside, but it's like, you know, I mean, if you want to argue about more, if you want to argue about moral areas, you know, because Ethan Hawke's the main guy of the story, he has to make the decision and be like, no, we're gonna take a stand, you know. And plus also the movie would have been over like halfway through it, so it's like, so it's very easy to see why they sort of dragged it out long enough so they give the characters time to think and be like, no, we want to be on the high ground of this whole crazy Purge day. Moving on, next up is the Purge Anarchy, which is all I know about. Like, I haven't seen any reviews or anything of the second or third one. Third one, actually, I saw the trailer for, and I'm like, this one interests me. But the second one, I guess it's out there. It's in the streets. It's in the country. What's gonna happen? I wonder if it's related to, because at the ending credits they had the audio radio transmissions of the aftermath and that, and there was a guy who said, he's like, I lost 2 kids, and, you know, I have nothing left of America or something like that. But then the audio cuts out and it switches to the music for the rest of the credits, and it's like, why end with that specific transmission? So I'm like, I think they said, you know, we put that out there, and then if this does well, we might do a sequel, you know, around that. So I'm guessing that's the way it's gonna go. I don't know. Let's find out. I just watched The Purge Anarchy, and basically it was good enough. I mean, it showed more of the outside world instead of a interior of a house for the entire film, you know. So instead of the rich side, which we saw in the first movie, it's a little more on the more poorer side, and we get to, you know, experience the Purge in the city. Not bad. Could have been worse, definitely. But surprisingly, the thing that I sort of felt didn't work or did not, what really slowed down the film is basically every time there's a little bit of downtime, we got one of the characters always questioning the guy with the guns that's saving their asses, and it's like every time it happens, it's like okay, we got a sense of his backstory just from the opening scene that had him in it in his room getting ready for the Purge, and it's like you can already assume everything that she asks. It's like, oh, why are you in the going out on the purge? Are you purging? It's like we didn't. You don't need to question him because you already know his motives. It's like, and you know the audience knows, and it's like we don't need to sit through sort of like a really slow. Like that's when the movie slows down. Is that little moment that happens throughout it, and so other than that, the movie is actually pretty decent. I like the end credits, just the design of it and all that. Very cool editing. But no, okay, so the first movie, the ending thing didn't mention that, so I don't know why the first movie ended with that little clip. Maybe the third one clears it up audio wise. I don't know. Third one I know because I remember seeing the trailers for it. Election year. The girl from Lost is in it, and you got the guy from the second movie's in it because I kind of already knew he survives this one, just because I saw the trailers for the third one. He becomes like the bodyguard for the girl, and he must rescue, or not rescue, but the actress from Lost, she plays like a government guy or someone running for the government, so running for president basically, and so and they know her platform for voting or whatever is like, we want to stop the purge from happening and all that. So it's like, so when the next purge happens, just before election day or whatever, she gets targeted by the people in the position of power that wants to stop her from getting elected to stop the purge, you know, the founding fathers, so to speak, which that's the one thing I sort of dislike with the purge, is just how if you are purging, you always cite the oath before kills and stuff like that, like it's too, if purge was real, I think there's people who wouldn't even care about the logic of it, that they wouldn't be all like, oh, let's cite the oath before we do our kill or our hunt or whatever. They would just do it, you know? So, to have so many characters throughout this franchise do that every time before a kill, that's a little, not unrealistic, but it's just, it kind of hits that, oh, this is just a film. But anyways, so I'm kind of excited for the third one, actually, out of all of them, just because I think the trailer, the plot sounded good, you know, there, because he's the bodyguard for her, and he's trying to protect her from Purge Day, and so, I did like in the second one that they introduced the uprising is starting and all that, and you know, you see a little bit of that in action, you see a little bit of the heads of government, but, so it feels like there's some momentum building into something, where the first one just felt like they just wanted to do something successful. Now they're trying to expand the universe. So this third one, hopefully because the fourth one, they do a prequel to the very first Purge. So I assume the third movie's going to complete the Purge, hopefully, like trilogy, and hopefully, you know, everything is resolved by the end of it. That's what I'm kind of hoping for. None of this, you know, they do a prequel and then they're gonna do the fifth Purge movie later on, you know, or I don't know. They're probably gonna do that anyway. So, time to watch The Purge Election Year. I just watched The Purge Election Year, and no, I did not pay $26 for this film. This I got at HMV when they were going under, and they had things at literally 95% off. So I got this for a couple bucks. So that was an incredibly good deal. But anyways, this movie. Actually, if you want to check out what else I got at HMV when it was closing in Canada, check out that video. I might as well plug it. I did it several years ago. What felt like several years ago, actually. Well, anyways, Purge Election Year I just watched, and I liked it. liked it slightly better than the second one. The first one's a little bit of an outlier, The Purge, because it's a creative way of doing a home invasion film, but the plot of it is more what stands out than the actual movie itself when it comes to the first one, where the second and third one's a little more out in the streets during the Purge sort of thing, so it's like a little more chaotic, you got a little more to work with, more characters and stuff like that, so definitely seems second and third one's totally different from the first one, so I don't know how they ranked the first one, but Purge election year, I enjoyed. I don't know what else to say. I'm bloody tired and I work tomorrow. I thought it's kind of cool how they ended and wrapped it up. I know the fourth movie is a prequel. I don't have it, so unfortunately that will have to be saved for another horror marathon. So the Purge trilogy overall, I guess, good idea. Feels kind of original mythology-wise for the horror franchise, so maybe they'll do more creative things with the Purge later on, who knows. Next up, I think, if I remember correctly, is Candyman. That's a horror film I never even heard about, so until now. So now that I have it, I'm gonna watch it, because I know that they're gonna remake it. They said they were going to remake Candyman. So before they released the trailer for the remake, I want to see the original. And that's what I'm doing next. I just watched Candyman. And I gotta be careful when reviewing this movie. I can't say his name 4 more times, or you would see some serious shit. That was pretty good. I like going into it. I only heard the horror film, not even bother saying the name. I'm scared, okay? I've heard like a lot of lists where people are like, oh, this is like, you know, some of the best horror films. This is one of those ones that usually pop up on a list. So, seeing it, it's, oh my god. Well, I thought it was done really well. I like how it was. It was a bit of a slow burn, surprisingly, but the moments where there is gore. Like, they go all out on it. They don't hold back. But at the same time, they very tastefully do it. It's weird. I don't know. But all I want to talk about is that score. I love that score. As soon as I saw I love the opening credits. I love the overhead shots in this movie, because it's just, the overhead shots seem too perfect. I don't know, is that just me? Like, the beginning opening credits when it's going along the highway, everything is just, it just looks so symmetrical and lined up, and overhead shots of the school or the university in certain places or whatever, it's like, it just seems so perfect. I don't know. I loved it, but the music I loved even more. As soon as I saw in the opening credits Philip Glass, I'm like, oh, that's gonna be awesome, and it was. Did not disappoint. I especially liked the ending, and it's so weird because it's like there was a lot of moments in this film where I'm like, this is kind of weird. Why is it doing this? Why, like, specifically, why choose to do this? Why choose to do that? In the terms of the killer, or trying to figure out the killer in the sense. And it's like, there were several parts, like, where I'm just like, why? But it just, the funny thing is, watching the film, I never questioned it, because while the movie was happening, it just, to me, it made sense, even though it was very crazy, very, not crazy, like, when thinking back to it now, I'm like, why did this happen? Why did that happen? And I'm like, during the watching of the film, I never had those questions. I was just enthralled with the overall film, you know? I just let it roll, whatever happened, and it's like at this point I was like hooked in for the ride. And apparently they're going to be remaking Candyman, and I'm curious to see what they do with it. I don't have the sequels or anything. I think they made a sequel to this, but I'm not sure. All I have is the first one. But I saw the unrated cut of the film that Scream Factory has, which is the same amount of minutes as the theatrical version. So I'm not really sure. I think there's one or two moments where I noticed, because apparently the unrated cut, it has, even though it is scanned the same way as the theatrical cut, the unrated HD inserts are from a rare print, so it's HD. It's not the same sort of resolution as the rest, so you can just a little bit tell, especially on a big screen, that some parts were what was unrated. So I'd be curious to see what the theatrical is. But I just liked just how creative overall some of the things were, in the sense of like the bees and all that. Like, I don't like bees. Well, I mean, bees are okay. I'm a little more. I hate the wasps, but those are the. They're the in between the fuzzy bees and the wasps. That's, I think, the bees, the honey bees. And I'm just, some of the shots with the honeybees, I'm like, I would like to know production-wise how many times they got stung trying to do some of these scenes with the bees. Like, I wouldn't even, cast or crew, I wouldn't be on set that day, to be honest. And I just liked how, like for example, the scene where she's in the mental hospital and she's just brought in, and Candyman appears, and he's from the ceiling going down, and it's like, they didn't need to do that, but it's awesome that they did that. Especially I loved how when they came in to sedate her, he's still going down, and he goes lower, like past the bed while they're coming in. So it's like, it's such a crazy, like, it's scary, cool, and awesome at the same time. Like, it's little things like that makes, I think, this movie definitely stand out, as well as the plot. Cast pretty good. I mean, I can see why when, you've lifted off a name of iconic killers. Candyman would definitely, after the ones that had so many sequels, like Halloween, Friday the 13th, if you had a top, 15 list of iconic killers, I'm sure Candyman makes that list. Anyways, next up, I forgot the name of it already, but I was originally supposed to do 2 other films, or no, 3 other films, but I decided at the last minute to pull them, save them for next year, because I enjoyed Prince of Darkness and Frankenstein Created Women so much, and the Hammer Horror, I'm like, I want to see a couple more. So I went out and I got the Hammer Horror Collection, the 8-film thing, just because it comes with the Hammer Horror, or the Hammer Company's version of Phantom of the Opera, which is the only way you can get the movie on Blu-ray, is in that collection. So that's one of the movies I'm going to be seeing. But before I see that, I'm going to be watching the vampire one that's on it and the Frankenstein one that's on it, because I kind of wanted to see more. I'm curious to see more, even though I'm watching them out of order. So I'll let you know the name of the title when I actually go watch it, but I forgot what the name of it is. But it's not like the title really matters. Like Prince of Darkness, vampire movie, it's like, there's nothing about it that screamed Prince of Darkness or whatever. I think that was just a catchy name title to, distinguish itself. Where Frankenstein Created Women, I can kind of see where they got that title from after watching the film. So, time to watch free Hammer horror movies. Starting off with something Dracula related. And away! I just watched the Brides of Dracula. Or is it The Brides of Dracula? Can't remember. Anyways, what a lovely surprise. Peter Cushing is in this one as well. He's playing Van Halen. Not Van Halen. Van Helsing in this. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm not good with names. Anyways, that was okay. That's without a doubt probably the worst of the Hammer horror films I've seen. But it's not bad. It's just out of the three I've seen. I'm like, this is the one where it's like, it's just, there's a problem is there's like, there's a couple of moments where it's like, something, like, where do we get? I mean, I might spoil this specific movie a little bit, but like, near the end, there was actually a pretty cool moment where it's like Van Helsing does get bit by the Dracula, or not Dracula. Dracula's not in this. It's someone else, but it's not. He's not called Dracula. He's another Baron or whatever. And Van Helsing gets bit, and it's kind of shocking because it's like, wow, he's done for, because there's no way you can undo a bite from a vampire. Lo and behold, Van Helsing actually knows how to deal with a bite wound. And now I know what to do in case I discover I got bit by a vampire. I just gotta keep that holy water with me, you know? But anyways, so during the whole part where he's healing himself from the vampire wound, it turns out that the brides, I guess you can call them, of I mean, it's called Brides of Dracula, but Dracula's not in this movie. Explain the title, please. Doesn't get any more confusing. They were nearby, the brides, and watching him heal himself the entire time. Like instead of, stopping him from doing whatever he's doing, they just sat there and watched in shock as it's like, oh my gosh, he's healing himself. Oh. But the thing is, you don't see them for the whole healing process, because you knew they were there. And then, so assumed after he's bit, he wakes up, it's like, you assume they're not there. But then it's revealed just before it, like, totally heals. It's like, they were there watching the whole time. It's like, what the... It's just a little bit of funny moments like that, where it's like, unintentionally funny, I guess. This didn't really feel like, if this one leads into Dracula, Prince of Darkness, then that means... Hold on, I got the list. Yeah, so it goes Brides of Dracula, 1960, and then 1966, so 6 years later they did Dracula, Prince of Darkness. Yeah, so Christopher Lee's in the first and third one, which is Dracula, Prince of Darkness, and maybe a couple more later on, but once again, it's going to be a pain in the ass trying to track down these Hammer films. But it's interesting because Dracula, Prince of Darkness, it starts off with, I'm going to assume that's the ending of the first Dracula movie. That's the only way I could see it sort of connecting it, because Brides of Dracula seems a little bit of a offshoot, I guess, to say that there's other, like, because Cult of Dracula, it's implied that, that's a little bit spread out in small numbers and all that, so, but yeah, I liked it, I guess, just not as much as the previous two that I saw of Hammer. I really gotta stop calling Hammer horror, but it I mean, it's considered Hammer. I mean, it's just Hammer is the company, but anyways. So on to the next one, which is the only Frankenstein one that's on the disc, or of this collection I have, is The Evil of Frankenstein, which actually came out, is the one before Frankenstein created women. So, I am excited to see what technically leads into the movie I actually really enjoyed. So, and also actually I would say Peter Cushing as Van Halen or Van Helsing, it's definitely felt a little more subdued of a performance. I mean, but then again, I don't think his Frankenstein performance was as different. But I was under the impression his Frankenstein performance was a little more out there. So his Van Helsing performance was a little more, really more, I guess, relaxed, or not relaxed, but like just a little more soul, I guess. I don't know. Though it was nice seeing Peter Cushing again. He did an okay job as Van Helsing. But it was kind of cool seeing, because Van Helsing, he's supposed to be more the fighting of the monsters and dealing with them and all that. Dracula, Frankenstein, all that. I mean, love the Hugh Jackman film. So it's like, it's kind of neat seeing the older and interpretation of the character. I wonder if was he the guy that kills Dracula in the very first movie? Because if so, that would be cool seeing Peter Cushing versus Dracula. I mean, granted, they did show that, but I just wasn't paying attention. Because I thought only Christopher Lee's in that film. But I don't know. I would have to track down the film. But anyways, Frankenstein, Evil of Frankenstein. I have no idea what to expect, except I don't even know how well it's gonna be connected. It kind of feels like with their version of Dracula and Frankenstein. It feels like it's like almost like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but with older sequels of the movie. Like, I don't know, is there a combined universe where it's like Frankenstein and Dracula and maybe a couple of the other Hammer version of the horror films? Like, I don't know. That would be cool. I don't know. We'll see. Let's watch The Evil of Frankenstein. And I'm starting to think these things aren't as connected as I want them to be. I'm pretty sure Hans is played by a different actor in this one. And also the ending, which brings a point. My biggest criticism with... well, it's not really a criticism. I actually kind of like how abruptly they end, but at the same time, it's like I kind of wish they didn't abruptly ended these Hammer films. Like, every single one abruptly ends. like it doesn't even give the chance the movie to breathe the ending. It just literally ends as something's happening. And it kind of bugged me, but I keep forgetting to mention it every time I watch a Hammer film. And then the ending, I'm just like reminded. I'm like, this one really screwed me up because I'm like, they don't really show Frankenstein surviving the event of this movie. Minor spoiler, I guess. And it's like in the next one, which is the one I saw earlier, kind of totally different. Like, it's almost like, I guess maybe they're their own separate little stories that are very loosely connected or not connected at all. I don't know. But I will say I am enjoying the Frankenstein side of the Hammer movies than the Dracula side. Dracula side's okay, but I find with the Frankenstein side, they're a little more creative with the story, even the lines of dialogues, and it feels more original and better use of stuff than the Dracula side. The Dracula side is a little more, they get bit, there's a vampire, someone gets bit, they become a vampire, someone kills the vampire, end of story, cycle, repeat. It's sort of that sort of thing, but with the Frankenstein size, it's like their own little creative joys, you know? And the sets, just the way they go around the story. I want to watch the rest of them. I have to find the rest of them. Anyways, on Blu-ray. A DVD if I'm really desperate. Well, anyways, there's just one more of the Hammer films that I wanted to watch. And that is The Phantom of the Opera. The 1960, I'm going to say 2 version. Because there's a couple little different versions of Phantom of the Opera. I don't know if you know, but I'm a big fan of Phantom of the Opera. I love the whole idea of the story. I really want to read the original book, novel, but I haven't got around to that yet, or locate a copy of the novel. But here's the thing: there's several versions I still haven't seen. This is one of them. I've seen the 2004 musical. I've seen the 1990s. I forget the year. The one with Robert Englund. I was about to say Freddy Krueger. I mean, not technically wrong. I've seen that version. I've seen the 40s version with Claude Rains. All of which I liked in their own ways. I still haven't seen the 20s version of it. I haven't seen the late 90s version, that horror director or whatever. I think there's one in the 50s, I could be mistaken, but there's still a couple of them I haven't seen. This is one of them, and this is done by Hammer. So, I figured I should watch this. Because I want to watch it, okay? I'm excited. I wonder, I assume since, because for example, it's not going to be the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical one, I know that. Which actually, that reminds me, I've also seen Phantom of the Paradise, if you count that as related to Phantom of the Opera. And I also seen Love Never Dies, which is the sequel to Phantom of the Opera, but the play version, because they never really adapted that story anywhere else. And I also seen the 25th anniversary play version of Phantom of the Opera, and I've also seen Phantom of the Opera actually live in Toronto twice. So, I guess you could say I'm a bit of a fan of the Phantom of the Opera. I found it interesting the Claude Rains one was also musical, but not, well, it's so weird because I love the sound, I love the Phantom of the Opera musical, so it's like, you know, seeing a version of Phantom of the Opera that doesn't have the same music and lyrics as Phantom of the Opera musical was a weird experience. I mean, it wasn't technically a total musical, but it had musical moments in it. This one, I'm gonna take a stab and say it's not gonna be totally musical, or maybe one or two little musical moments. Well, I don't know. I mean, they might show like a play or something, maybe some opera, but I don't see there being actual full-on musical numbers or anything in this version of Phantom of the Opera. So, time to watch The Phantom of the Opera. So, I just watched The Phantom of the Opera from this Blu-ray set. This is the set I was talking about, 8-film collection. Hammer horror, if you can really call it horror. I mean, it's horror, but it's very tame horror by today's standards. Where does it begin? This film, compared to every other Phantom of the Opera, had some unique ideas when it came to the Phantom of the Opera. On the other hand, it also didn't really have a lot of original ideas when it came to the Phantom of the Opera. I will say, though, the movie did not end as abruptly as it could have I mean, just a couple. I would have just a couple more, like maybe 10 seconds earlier, start the credits, and it would have been abrupt. It was actually not as abrupt as I thought it was gonna be. That's funny. No, it just it still was pretty abrupt. But first of all, the big, well, compared to every other version, this is the only Phantom of the Opera I've seen where the actual Phantom of the Opera, the genius music with the mask, is actually not the one who's technically killed anybody. And that's interesting. Yeah, he actually has some, I guess, hobo who was living in the sewers. That's when he had the accident. He came across him in the sewer area, so it's like they became the best of friends, I guess. I don't know. He's like, he doesn't really listen to me sometimes, blah blah blah, and all that. And so it's kind of weird because it's like they separated the musical side of the Phantom of the Opera and the you know, the serial killer side of the Phantom of the Opera by making the guy who's killing everybody be another character that's sort of assisting him, but at the same time sort of not. Like, it's a little bit of in between. I just thought that was weird because it's like, it's so weird in the beginning. It catches you off guard because you're watching the film and you're like, who's that other guy that's being really, really suspicious? But the thing is, his face is unmarked and he's not wearing a mask. So I was like, that's weird. And, you know, later on you sort of see the guy with the mask as well. I mean, in the opening shot, it shows the both of them. It shows the guy sitting there in the cave, and then it's like he's listening to the guy on the organ with the mask and with the Phantom of the Opera. And it's like, it's such a weird way of going around the plot. Kind of like how the love interest of Christine is actually part of the theater. Kind of makes it a little less of, you know, he's a fan that knew her when she was a child. They were friends growing up and all that. So it's like, instead of that, which is the normal thing, the love interest is actually, he's producing. He's one of the guys part of the theater. And so I thought that was another sort of good, another original way of going around Phantom of the Opera. The specific ending, I guess they couldn't go big with the usually show-stopping. I mean, the 40s version had a show-stopping ending of collapsing of the tunnels and all that. Newer Phantom of the Opera ones had the big fire and going through the theater and all that. And it's like, this one, it's like, what are they going to do for a big ending? And, I mean, yeah, if you really don't want to be spoiled of this Phantom of the Opera thing, please skip ahead. I mean, this is the only way you can watch the movie, really, because I don't think there's even a DVD release of the movie that I know of. Hypothetically. So, in the end, so basically, the Phantom, okay, that little, I mean, he's listed in the credits as the dwarf, so I guess that's his character. He doesn't talk, he doesn't, kind of listens, kind of doesn't, we don't know, really. I mean, even the Phantom says it at one point near the end where he's explaining everything. He's like, I don't even know who the hell this guy is. He's just, you know, he's just there. And so it's like, he's the one, he's watching the play, Phantom's watching the play. It's a kind of leading into a happy ending sort of thing, which is weird because this is a Hammer production film. So it's like, everything's all good, and then it's like some of the stagehands in the back come across the dwarf guy watching the play, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing there?" Blah blah blah. And so they confront him, and so in the chase thing, he decides to jump from the raft to the chandelier, not realizing that the chandelier starts to break immediately. So he's like, "Ah, crap," and so Christine is directly under the chandelier. So I was like, a part of me was kind of really hoping for, like that one scene in Final Destination 2 where the glass falls on the kid, and I'm just imagining it's just, I would like to, for an old movie, just see some body gets and then like blood bags everywhere, but then I remember the 60s, so I don't think I'm gonna get that. And so I'm like, oh yeah, come on, destroy. It's kind of sad where you're actually kind of hoping for Christine to be, just to make this ending of the Phantom of the Opera really stand out as different from the other ones. But no, what happens is the Phantom of the Opera sees this and he jumps from the balcony. Well, actually, probably the stupidest reveal of the Phantom of the Opera face I've seen in the history of all the Phantom of the Operas I've ever seen, because in this one, I mean, it's kind of cool. Well, first of all, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to tie this all together, because first of all, the main bad guy, or antagonist, I guess you would say, of the Phantom of the Opera, that's not the Phantom of the Opera, and this is, or the dwarf, is the guy who stole the music in the first place, that basically kind of caused the decisions that made the Phantom of the Opera in this. Phantom of the Opera confronts him, but he doesn't kill him or anything. He's like, he confronts him, but then the musician's guy is like, remove your mask when you're talking to me, blah 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 blah. And then he removes the mask, and he's like, scares, runs off, and then you don't see him again for the rest of the film. So, did he die? I'm just imagining he turned the corner and got brutally murdered by the dwarf, but I didn't see that in this film, so I guess not. I don't know. But anyway, so removes the mask, and so, but the camera doesn't show the removing of the mask or what he looks like, so it's kind of a neat decision, but then they decide to reveal the face later on. So after the play, the chandelier's about to fall, and then that's when, instead of saving time by jumping into action and saving Christine, pushing her out of the way, he takes 2 seconds to go, reveal of my face, but very fast. So it's very throwaway. It was a throwaway reveal. Like, you've heard of throwaway gags. That was a throwaway reveal, It's just, whew, and then, hear the audience scream, and then he jumps into action, and then it's like you barely even get a chance to even see the makeup or anything like that. He jumps and basically pushes Christine out of the way. Chandelier falls and lands directly on the Phantom. No squishy blood effects there at all. Chandelier. It was very... I knew in the beginning when I saw them raising the chandelier, and I'm like, if that's the chandelier that's going to fall at the end of the movie, it's not going to be as epic and climactic as the 40s or the 2000s or even the 1998. Actually, I don't think that one... I don't remember the 1990 version with Robert Englund as well. I just remember the horror aspects of it was actually kind of cool, and a bit of the twist with the modern part of it. I liked that. That stood out, but the I don't think that one had a big. But if the Phantom of the Opera movie that came out 20 years prior had a big crash ending, destruction, it's like, wow, it's pretty sad that this version, I guess they went really low budget Phantom of the Opera, so that's probably why. But otherwise, I kind of liked it for what it was. The Phantom Mask was different. I mean, one eye fully masked. It actually kind of reminded me of Michael Myers in some of the faraway shots when you're looking from a distance. It's like, wow, look, Michael Myers is in this movie. It's like, wait a minute. So, I mean, it's different. And actually, realistically, if my face was like totally burned, I would want a mask that like more covers the whole thing of the face than just half, because, well, it's kind of spread out. You got shielding the light from the eye, because I assume the eye would be damaged if the burn is like all there. So it's like, I'm sure the eye got affected as well. So it's like you want to shield the daylight and the bright lights from, ruining your eye, if it's not totally ruined already. So I felt like the mask was a little bit the more realistic of all the Phantom of the Opera masks. Not the best looking, I guess. I forgot what I was going on. It's kind of late. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning at this point. So forgive me, I'm a little bit tired of this version. I felt the musical aspects were a little bit on the long side and a little too serious on the music side. Like they were trying to actually show a bit of the play and all that, and it's like near the end when they show basically kind of not the whole play, but they show a lot more of the play from the beginning to the end, and it felt way too long. Like there was one part where like the play was happening so long because they wanted to show the whole ending of the play. I was like, I forgot I was watching a Phantom of the Opera movie because I thought I was watching a play about Joan of Arc, which I actually thought was kind of funny because I guess they chose Joan of Arc because it's sort of a play on, the main character hearing voices. So it's like the same thing in this Phantom of the Opera because the main girl hears voices of the Phantom saying, "Do watch out for that guy," blah blah blah, and all that. So it's like I guess it's a play on that, a play. I like. I mean, what Phantom of the Opera version do I hate? I don't think I've come across one I've hated yet, so that's a good thing. Anyways, this is it. 31 days of horror marathon, and here it is, movie number 31. That's right, 31 movies. I'm already at it, and I'm way ahead of schedule, which is awesome. I can hopefully edit this out before I leave to go to Jamaica. That's right, I'm going to Jamaica. Yeah, anyways, okay, so for the final movie of the marathon, there's this one movie I really wanted to watch. Absolutely. A little movie called House. And it is a foreign language horror film I haven't seen any trailers. I think I saw 1 or 2 images from the film, but I'm expecting it's going to be very nightmarish fuel, very visually striking of a horror film. I figured this is the best time to watch it because I'm slightly tired. So, but as long I feel awake, but I'm just a little bit dull to stuff that's happening. So maybe I'll actually get a little bit spooked with this movie, So, I'm really excited to watch House. So, time to watch House. I just watched House. This movie. This movie. My gosh. Japanese Evil Dead 2. plus free. I don't know. There's no simple way to describe this movie. Even then, describing it that way doesn't give it justice of what I just watched. There's Scooby Doo. I guess a bit of John Carpenter. I don't friggin' know. It's Wes Anderson. It is. The editing. I loved the music. I loved just how beautiful everything looked, but at the same time, how it's cheesy. Embraces is cheesy without. I can't tell if they overdo it on the cheesiness just because it's consistent throughout the film. The ending, I'm gonna have to, it's the kind of movie I'm definitely gonna have to rewatch. Not subtitle wise, but like just understanding the movie, because I understood a decent portion of this film, but then the ending, and then visuals were like there's not actually, if you think about it, there's not that much horror, but at the same time there's like the first 30-40 minutes of the movie, I never would have guessed this was a horror film. It's so not horror, and then it's like the elements where horror does come in, it goes but then it like brings it back because it's like not too horror because it's so cheesy. Like, I'm pretty sure it's green screen stuff that they were doing. Like, it's crazy, but wow, the film I just watched. That cat is cute though. I love that cat. Not gonna spoil House. I mean, how can you spoil House? Because there's no way to really describe this. The ending, haunting, but it's just not all out comedic too. Like some of it is comedic, but it's just, I've never seen a film like this. In the thousands of movies I've ever seen, I've never seen a film like this. And I don't think I'll ever see a film like this again. Makes me curious what the director has done with anything else. Wow, House. Amazing. Yeah, that was a great way to end. Being tired but so awake, it's like so invested in the film that even though crazy shit was happening, I was like, whoa. Couple moments where I felt like I need to rewind this, but I didn't, because I was like, I don't want to miss what's gonna happen next. Like, oh man, if you want something if you want something weird and horrific wonderful, horrific wonderful, this is the film to watch. I loved it. Anyways, that's 31 horror movies I watched for the first time for this year, year 5. Thank you very much for watching. Probably give a heads up, I'm aiming not to do any more just watched review marathons of the horror. I'm still gonna set aside 31 films and watch it for Halloween, so I'm still gonna do that. I'm not gonna record a before and after review for any of those films. I'm just gonna watch the marathon to watch a marathon, you know? As you can tell, my quality, I feel like I need to stop doing these movie reviews because I just feel that my time and effort could be spent elsewhere. I can actually watch a film without having to forcefully watch it, you know? I'm gonna move forwards with what I would rather do, you know? Anyways, thank you very much for watching. I want you to have a nice day or night or whatever time you watch this. Have a nice whatever. Thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it. Check out my other stuff if you want. Entirely up to you. Yeah. House. Yeah, let's see what weird dreams I get tonight.
Naughty.